Welcome in. It's time to dive into our weekly Dreamsnap reviews. So I'm live a little bit earlier today. Jordan and I are going to the movies this evening around, I think the movie's at 6:45. So for my 3-hour stream, I figured I would do, like 2:30 to 5:30. That way I have time to get ready. Oh, Dreamer, this build, this is just my Mythopia. This is old. I've had this you've seen this before. I've walked through here a lot of times. This is just one of my decorated biomes, with the old stuff. This is before we got all the new Star Path stuff. So I'll probably change this build. Probably gonna do a lot of Mythopia. Whenever I have the time. All right. So, first off, Belle, thank you for the first bits of the day. Very kind of you. Bethany, first comment of the day over on YouTube. Hello, Bethany. Welcome. Beyblade, hello. Nicole Deanne. I think Ronald was first comment here on... Or actually, I think there was one other. Yeah, Belle B was the first comment of the day on YouTube, followed by Ronald. Hello. Dreamer, welcome. Samantha, good to see you. Ashley, good to see you. Mammy Daisy, welcome in. Ghost Girl, hello. Scuttle, welcome back. Carrie, hello. Guru, Wishing Stardust. Lots of friends here. Tiger, hello. Ginger Snap, welcome. Novaria, thank you for the resub. Coming in with a beautiful 4 months. Much appreciated, my friend. Much appreciated. Beagle Mama, hello. All right. So, we're going to dive right into it today so we can hopefully put a nice dent into the snaps we have to review for Monday. I'll try to get through as many of these today as I can. Thank you, Cambria. Cambria coming in with the 100 bits here. Thank you so much, my friend. Greatly appreciated. Now, if you've never caught the review streams before, I'll give you a quick breakdown of how all of this works. So when it comes to these Snap review streams, it's not about my preferences. It's not about what I like. We go based off of what we see performing well within Dreamsnaps on average. So there's a lot of things voters have shown time and time again that they appreciate. Things that do well. There's a lot of meta plays people do, like getting closer to the avatar, things like that. Great lighting is very strong. Good saturation. Telling a story with your Dreamsnap. All of these things have been proven, and you can see it for yourself. When you look at a lot of Dreamsnaps in 4K, you can see these things performing well. So yeah, the reviews I do, they're not about my preferences. They're about what we see doing well week after week after week. Now, while I'm doing these reviews, we have a lot of Dreamsnaps to look through every week. A lot of people submit for these reviews. So while we're doing them, I don't always have chat open. So on a day where I'm, if you were here on update day or any other stream really, I'm going to be constantly talking to chat, constantly reading your comments. But when I'm doing the reviews, I like to give my full attention to the Dreamsnaps I'm currently reviewing, so we won't be reading chat as much. So, if you want to get my attention, you can grab one of the mods. They can, find a way to pull my attention away. Jesse joins. Hello. Welcome back. Casey said, let's see. Happy Fairy said, sorry, kind of new here, but how do I save my Dreamsnap to be able to send it for review? I'm so confused. Thank you. So, when it comes to saving your snap, you snap a picture, right? Let's say this is the picture. And there's an option to save and share QR code. It's in the bottom left. Just look at the bottom left. After you snap your photo, you're going to see these options down here in the bottom left. So, to save and share the QR code, for me, it's X on the Xbox controller. It'll save the picture to my device, and then it will give me a QR code. You can scan that QR code with your phone, and then it'll show the picture on your phone, and you can download it and save it to your phone. Then you can upload it to Discord. But yeah, if you are submitting for review, it needs to be the actual saved photo and not a picture of your screen. If you take a photo of your screen, it's going to greatly distort the lighting, and I'm not going to be able to give a good review in that case. So, we want to see the actual photo that people will see whenever they're voting. So, yeah, that's how you can save it. If you're on PlayStation, you can actually save it to the PlayStation app, I've had people say. Like you can, take screenshots and save it to the PlayStation app that way, and then you can save it from the PlayStation app. So, yeah, there's a few ways. Scuttle said, did anyone else switch their premium shop back to the old view? Oh, can you switch it back? I didn't know that. Yeah, I would like to do that. Hang on, let me do that, because I don't like the new view, to be honest. Where is it? In settings? Oh, just open and close side menu. Is that it? Yeah, this is better. I mean, it's still... Is this what you mean? I mean, it doesn't really change the layout. It just gives you the actual text. But yeah, I prefer the text anyway over just the diamonds. Samantha, I think someone said you'll have to do it every time you open it. Oh, really? Well, it's just one button. You know, you just press X. So, that's not too bad. All right. Mamie Daisy said, where do we send our Dream Snaps? So, if you're interested in reviews, Mamie Daisy, you'll have to join our Discord. There's a channel in there called How to Get Reviews. Just visit that channel. It'll lay out everything you need to know. There's also a rules channel. You know, that'll cover things like when to submit, where to submit, you know, what you need when you submit, things like that. All right. Yeah, I still got to make my snap too, Scylla. I made my example scenes, but I haven't made my actual snap yet. I'll try to do that this weekend. Did you see that if you put a pocket item down, you can select furniture mode and add to your inventory? Yes. Yeah, Left Shark made a little video about that, actually. So I saw that today. So when you do the group select and delete, it'll put everything in your pocket, which is really nice. Okay. So another thing we do before we get into the reviews is we revisit the challenge, and we just kind of read it to give an idea of what we're looking for here. So let's go down to the current challenge. This week's challenge is called Legendary Moments. It says, create a world of wonder with fantastical characters like Phil and Tinkerbell. Satyr, fairy, or even alien dress up and play with mythical companions and creatures. So we're looking for a world of wonder with fantastical characters. And it also mentions mythical companions and creatures. So, yeah, I definitely think this challenge is hoping to get us playing with that new villager toggle. And then also, you know, bringing in companions and creatures. Good call there. I went with a quick snap this time. I'll probably get 300, but I'll be happy with that. Lily, you shouldn't get 300 unless you just took, like, a random selfie. If you do the theme, like if you place on-theme items and you include a villager and a companion, I feel like there's a good chance you'll get, you know, at least 900 to 1200 if you put even 5 minutes of effort in. So, yeah, I really doubt it'll be 300 if you put any effort in whatsoever, especially on the week of the update. The week of the update is actually the easiest week to get 4K, or at least it has been in the past, and the reason why is because the star path gets people to submit that usually wouldn't even bother submitting a Dream Snap, so people they'll just put in throwaway submissions. And then also, the star path gets people to vote more, so there's more submissions, there's more voters, there's players coming back to the game. If you participated in Beachy Bliss, you're probably aware that it was the lowest number of submissions we've had throughout the entire past update. So it was the only challenge in which people that were in the 6,000 range, some of them didn't get 4K. All the other challenges, if you ranked in the 6,000s, you were going to get good 4K, but there were just way less submissions and less votes. So that's how it is at the very end of the update. So the end of the update is typically going to be a lot slower, and it makes Dream Snaps a bit tougher. But at the beginning of a brand new update, that's the best time to chase 4K because there's going to be a lot more submissions, and a lot of them are just going to be throwaway submissions. So, you know, it's a good time to chase the Moonies. Ash said, did you say what movie you're seeing? Yeah, I'm going to go see the finale of The Amazing Digital Circus. I've watched the series on YouTube, and it's really fun. I like it. I really like the concept of them being stuck in this digital world, and there's so many mysterious questions. I know the movie leaked. The finale leaked. but I've avoided it because I just wanted to see it in theaters. All right. The guy said don't let us pick the theme anymore. Yeah, a lot of people didn't like the theme, apparently, from what I've heard. I said I know Gypsy loves it. Oh, does Gypsy like the Amazing Digital Circus? That's awesome. That's awesome. Can we get villagers to sit with a new toggle? Nope. Unfortunately not. Amy said, hi, Simon, everyone. Does anyone know if Mythopia bug was fixed for Dreamsnaps? Are you talking about the camera, the villager toggle bug? Dang, let's go! Anonymous!
Enjoy your evening with Geordie.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Very kind here. Almost halfway done with the goal already. We're at 2369 on the board. Today is goal number 184. We've hit 183 consecutive goals on this channel. We're getting very close to 200. Every day is a new record now. Our previous record was 113 goals in a row, so, I mean, we're like so far past that, it's wild. Dida said, I like Beachy Bliss. It was easy. I don't love challenging themes back to back. Yeah, Beachy Bliss was fun. I didn't mind it. Yeah, from what I've heard, Dreamer, for the Amazing Digital Circus, it's not available in a lot of European countries for whatever reason. There were like some licensing issues to get it in theaters in some of those places, unfortunately. All right. Amy said, yeah, the villager toggle bug. So you were asking if that was fixed. Unfortunately not. The bug for the villager toggle seems to only be in Mythopia, which is funny because that's a great place to do the theme this week. I'm just going to build my scene on a floating island because if you build it, like, you know, if you pave things and you put a lot of buildings down, you won't even be able to tell what floating island it is. And I can give you an example of what I mean here. If I pull up my Dreamsnaps, let's look at this scene. You can't tell what floating island this is, right? You can't see the ground at all because we've paved everything with leaf-strewn path. You can't see the trees in the background at all because we've completely sealed off the Dreamsnap. So this fall scene, I could have made this in the bind, but I wanted more space. So I made it on the Glade Island, actually. So this is the Glade, but you see no Glade grass. You see no Glade trees. So yeah, you can build your snap, you know, you don't have to use Mythopia. I probably won't be using Mythopia just because I'd rather be able to play with the villager toggle because I want to do some very fun things with villagers, and I'm really excited about the new toggle. But yeah, unfortunately, bugs like that typically don't get patched. You know, at least for a few, like once a new update rolls out, that bug probably won't get fixed until the next update, sadly. Who knows though? Maybe they'll fix it sooner. Didn't you also do Desert Haven? No, not my official one. Not my official one. I built my Tatooine example scene on Frosted Heights as a challenge. Because I had a lot of people, you know, asking if I don't have a desert biome, how do I do Desert Oasis if I don't have Rift in Time? So I showed them that you can do pretty much any floating island if you use like the Tatooine sand path. You can make a scene on any floating island. You won't even be able to tell. So yeah, I made a desert scene on Frosted Heights. So you can, you know, you can make your scenes anywhere if you're, you know, just thorough with how you build everything and you don't show the background stuff of the floating island and you pave it. You know, there's ways to work around it. They did a hotfix today. Oh, did they do a hotfix? I mean, I can check. Anybody know what they hotfixed? Okay, yeah, it's still not working. Is chat with villagers best steelmaker? Best steelmaker is Scrooge. Yeah, it looks like it's still broken. Unfortunate. Oh, well. All right. Well, we've taken a look at the challenge. I've given my whole breakdown of the advice that I give, and we've discussed that I will not be as interactive with chat as usual. Got a couple comments here. Anne says, have not tried the new villager placements. Do we get to pick any villager from anywhere? No, they have, just like the old toggle, they have to be in the area and you can't be hanging out with them. They don't really have to be right around you. They just have to be, you know, like on the map, essentially, like somewhere around. So they have to be out and about. Like if they're in the Scrooge shop or if they're in, you know, their house, it's not going to grab them. So just keep that in mind. Apparently the next DLC has been leaked. Oh, really? Already? Already? How did that happen? What? Winnie the Pooh mini DLC releasing July 8th, and then I'll announce it on June 17th. Interesting. A mini DLC. You know, they did give us polls about that. Dreamer, why are you asking if it will be free? It's a DLC. They give us a lot of free stuff. What do you mean it's a ripoff? You don't even know what's in it yet. What are we doing, Dreamer? What are we doing? You do realize Dreamlight Valley is a live service game that gives us a whole bunch of free stuff, right? The devs, like, at the end of the day, the game has to make money. It has to make money, whether you like it or not. If they don't get money, we don't get free updates. Like, that's what you have to understand. If Gameloft doesn't make money, this game stops existing. There won't be any more free updates. There won't be any more free characters, no more free realms. Because whether you like it or not, developers need to be paid. They need to be paid money to develop. So,
hello, I'm ready to get your feedback and yay.
Hey, Left Shark, hello. DLC. So yeah, you know, DLCs are going to cost money. They're going to cost money. Also, I don't know why we're saying it's a ripoff since you don't really know much about it yet. You know, maybe it is a ripoff. I don't know, but let's wait to see what it is before just, you know, being mad it's not free. There's going to be another free update like there always is, but if it's like a mini DLC being thrown in there, then yeah, it's going to cost money. You never have to get DLCs too if you don't like SSD. Well, yeah, absolutely. Dreamlight Valley is also about listening to us and giving us what we asked for, says Leia. Samantha said, wait till we get the info. Agreed. Just gotta wait till we get the info. Left Shark, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Thank you. Hello. I'm ready to get your feedback and yay for the new Adventure DLC. Yeah, sounds cool. Mini DLC, I think this is the first one we've had. Let me do a quick conversion on CAD. Okay, so now I gotta pull up my calculator. I'm gonna update my goal real quick, and then we're gonna get started. 358 plus 2369, 2727. All right, now we're officially over halfway on the goal. Let's go. And we got a new channel member, Amy. Welcome to the Inner Circle, my friend. Welcome. Thank you so much for making the content possible. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Y'all give a warm welcome to Amy's Looking Glass here, joining the supporter family over on YouTube. New channel member. Let's go. Thank you, my friend. Senor said, I just hope they do Twitch drops different this time. Are they going to do Twitch drops? Because... yeah, every time they do them, they're kind of meh. You know, like I like the drops, but yeah, they usually pick people that aren't really people that cover Dreamlight Valley, and then like last time they did it in the middle of TwitchCon, so like over like 70% of the people that were doing drops went to TwitchCon and weren't streaming. So like there's one Nintendo streamer like Hyrule, I can't remember his name, great guy, but he was getting stressed out because like he was the only one around that had the drops, and you know, people just kept on demanding he go live, and I don't think he enjoyed participating in the drops because it was just like a huge headache the way they set it up. So if they do Twitch drops again, I hope they handle it better. GameLoft has a pretty bad track record when it comes to the Twitch drops, unfortunately. Ballroom Babes has just joined Twitch, so I can watch and have my snap review, but I can't figure it out, says Ballroom Babe. So, Ballroom Babe, you don't have to join Twitch for that. You can get a review on either YouTube or Twitch. And if you want to get a review, type !reviews in chat, and it'll give you a link to my Discord. Within my Discord, there is a channel called How to Get Reviews. It's right under the category that says Dreamsnap Support. Just go to that channel and read what it says. Yeah, Highly in Descent. That's who it is. Yeah, thank you, Lost. Thank you. Yeah, Highly in Descent was their name. Yeah, I've heard about the DLC for Pokopi a few weeks ago. Apparently, it's coming like early 2027 or like late 2026, something like that. Dreamlight Anya, thank you for the follow, my friend. Welcome in, welcome in. All right. Yeah. They're planning on showcasing the mini DLC during the June 17th stream. That's what I think Ginger Snap was saying in chat as well. Ginger says, I love the DLCs. Those are the only times that I splurge and buy the fancy ones because those are the only Moonies I buy. Fair enough, fair enough. And when did you say it was coming out? When it was supposed to come out? So they're announcing it. They're announcing the DLC on the 17th, apparently. July 8th. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good because I think July... In mid-July, I'm heading to visit Jordan's family down in Florida. We're going to go visit her with her family for a bit. So I know in mid-July I'll be gone. I did plan my trip to where I can still do Dreamsnap reviews, though. So I'll be here like Monday and Tuesday. But yeah, the midweek I'll be heading out to go visit them in Florida for a bit. It drops right as I go on vacation. Yeah, that's funny because it's pretty close to what's happening for us. Yeah, I'm glad it's on July 8th and not like July 13th or 14th because I think that's when I'm heading out. All right, well, that works out. That works out. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at your snaps. We've already reviewed the theme. You know, we'll look at it one more time. Just quick refresh on that. All right, legendary moments. Create a world of wonder with fantastical characters like Phil and Tinkerbell, satyr, fairy, or even alien. Dress up and play with mythical companions and creatures. All right. So, our first review of the week here is going to be Nelvaria. Very fun. We got a Medusa build here. Very cool, very cool. Definitely plays up the mythical aspect and the legendary aspect. Love the moon setting in the back. I love that you included the statues. Like, people have been, you know, turned to stone. Like, you have, like, the lion statue, and you have a lot of different statues here. Very cool. Great shot of Hercules here. And the snake pose is fun. See, overall, very solid snap, very fun. Good foreground elements, good backdrop. Great character lighting on the avatar. I love the scaly face paint, too. You did a really good job on the avatar here. Like the snake eyes, the green brows, the green skin, the scaly features, the dress, and the snake head. Very, very cool. Hey, thank you, my friend. Thank you. We got Lost coming in with a wow, we got a brand new member of the supporter family on YouTube and a brand new member of the supporter family on Twitch. Let's go, let's go. Thank you, guys. Much appreciated, much appreciated. So, yeah, very cool here, very cool. Like we mentioned, the first week of an update, there's going to be way more submissions, more throwaway submissions as well. People will submit random selfies as they work through their star path. And there will also be more voters. So this has a good chance to perform well. I would say the only risk for it would, with the new villager toggle, I do think there's going to be a lot of shots that are very heavily utilizing villagers to create like a really cool aspect of storytelling. But I think this will perform very well in general. I feel like it has a good shot at 4K. The only snaps I think that could possibly give it a hard time, if it's unlucky enough to pop up against them, will be some of the snaps that are like very heavily utilizing both villagers and companions. But you do have a villager and you do have a companion. The snake might not be a mythical companion, but you are a legendary creature yourself. So, you know, I think that more than makes up for it. I love the way you have the dead trees kind of twisting in the moonlight here. That's very cool. And it was a great idea to use the statues here as well. So yeah, overall, very solid job. Definitely feels like you've made a world of wonder with these nice silhouettes in the back and the moonlight. And I think you've done a great job storytelling in the scene with the statues. So overall, very solid snap. Very fun, very fun. Dreamer is next. Alrighty. So we have Dreamer here. You got the Sakura Dragon. You have Phil. Oh, we got a little hype train coming in. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Little hype train rolling in. So a couple things I think you could improve, a couple ways you can improve the Snap Dreamer. Number one would be balance. If you turn your camera angle a little bit, you can get this more centered. You see how this gazebo, you have a really big gap on this side, and on this gazebo, you have a small gap? Balance performs well with voters. It looks like you're making a balanced scene, but when you changed your camera angle, you've kind of thrown off that balance. And what I mean by balance, look at this, right? We have the avatar right in the middle. We have this bench that's even behind the avatar. And then we have these two marble vases. And if you look, there's about identical amount of space between this vase and this side. There's a tiny bit more room on this side, but it's very balanced overall. Then we have the gazebo on each side. So this is what I mean by balance. Now in yours, we have a lot of space here and a little space here. So if you alter your camera angle, you can get this to be a bit more balanced. Also, this path you're using, like the radiator path, I don't think this is, if you're going with like the, the Greek mythology concept, you have the like Athens gazebos here, and you have Phil. I would say a path that looks a bit more like marble and bronze, like the golden opal path, or even just the gold path, is going to look really good with some of these features and details. Also, don't forget, you can, like I see you have this horse topiary over here. You have Phil. You could, and I know you have Wish Blossom Ranch. Why not use Pegasus? You have good room for him. You can have Pegasus over here. You could bring Hercules in if you wanted to. We do have the new villager toggle. So you have an opportunity to really, make the most of that with more than just Phil, if you wanted to bring in additional villagers. And again, even if you're not using Pegasus, you can also use the unicorn horn headpiece for horses to make them into unicorns. There's some really cool ways to use horses if you own Wish Blossom Ranch. But yeah, Pegasus is definitely somebody I would consider here. And then, the bottom right-hand corner here is empty. You see how the bottom left-hand corner in this shot is filled with this bush, and the bottom right-hand corner is filled with this bush? It's about balance. Balance is going to help your Dreamsnap perform better. Like, you have things around you, but then we have nothing over here. So again, work on that balance, Dreamer. Try to get your angle to where this well is in the middle, and these gazebos are on, there's the same amount of space between the left and the right-hand side. And if you haven't checked out my video for this week's theme, give it a watch, because there's some really good stuff you can utilize in there, especially things like the pathing. It's going to work very well with like the Athens set and stuff like that. Left shark. Beautiful shot here. Very cool. This is exactly what we were talking about here. Look at the path. This is exactly what we meant. See how well this path works with like the marble items in the back and the gold. This just looks really good here. Hey, thank you, my friend. Thank you. Black Knight with the gifted sub. Very kind of you, Black Knight. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Got about a minute left on the hype train. Appreciate you contributing, my friend. And yeah, anybody that contributes to the hype train can unlock a new emote on Twitch. I've already got all the tier 1, 2, and 3 hype train emotes, though, so I'm all set on those. But yeah, great mythical companions. You know, the challenge did mention... It mentioned, you know, fantastical characters like Phil. You have Phil here. And it also mentioned mythological creatures and companions. You have Pegasus, good mythological creature. You have this new baby Pegasus from the Star Path. And you have the Cerberus puppy with Hades, which is really fun to pair these two together. So that's really cool. I love the outfit. Looks like you actually bought some tickets to get this one. Because I know even if you complete all the duties and all the routine duties, you will not unlock this dress just yet. So you have to buy some extra tickets to get this one once you finished everything else. But it is such a beautiful dress. And I think that's going to give you a really unique outfit this week. Because most people likely will not have this outfit yet. So I think this will definitely stand out. And I love how well you have this centered. Like, look at this. Look at this. When I talk about balance, look how the tip of the hat here hits directly in the center of this little gold piece here. Like, that's perfectly balanced in the snap. So very cool, very cool. And you got the lightning bolt lighting up here. That looks great. Hercules. And again, you know, this golden opal road here. It has a very marble-like quality to it, so it works so well with, like, the Athens stuff and Hercules' house. You got the new little gold planets. Beautiful shot of the avatar here. Definitely on theme. Good legendary moment. Good lighting. And we even have a little pixie dust down here at the base for these nice little gold orbs. Horty, what are you doing, buddy? No, no. Horty. Do you want to go? Do you want to come to your bed? You want to come to your cat bed over here? Go ahead. Come on. There you go. Yeah, he just wants to go to his cat bed. Hey, good boy. Hi, buddy. All right. You chilling, buddy? Good boy. Yeah, very nice, Left Shark. Beautiful scene, beautiful scene. I love seeing the new outfit too. I was wondering because I was actually looking at this today. You know, because I unlocked the new glider because I had just enough tickets because I finished all the routine and all the other duties, and I was looking at the next tab, like what I'm gonna get next, and it was this outfit, and I was like, this outfit's so pretty. I wonder if anybody's going to submit for a review with this outfit. So it's cool to see it in a snap. It's such a good looking outfit. Great job on the makeup here too, by the way. This beautiful glowing pink gown, and then like the pink eyeshadow, the pink lip, the pink hair, the pink brows, and then the little broken marble pillar earrings. Such a good avatar design. Very solid, Left Shark, very solid. Beautiful work. Yo,
I even
thank you,
tried
my
to
friend.
recreate the glow of the dress with the hair.
Oh, yeah, I do see you have like a little bit of a brighter color down here at the base. Yeah, it works well because we have like the glow here, which gives it a bit of white on the side. So yeah, I can see that too. Yeah, she looks really good. The avatar looks really good here. I think people will enjoy this look a lot. And the benefit of having this too is, you know, a lot of people are not going to pick this up. So you're going to have a very unique avatar this week. Very unique. And yeah, she's very beautiful. Also, thank you for the additional super chat, my friend. Let me add that to the goal as well. 3,085 on the board. Let's go, let's go. Oh, Horty's taking a little cat nap next to me. What a sweet boy. Update my goal real quick. Try not to screw it up. Wait, was I on 184 today or 185? I think it was 185. Chat, can you help me with that? I forgot. Were we on 185? It was 184? Okay, good. Okay, we're good. All right, thank you, Samantha. Thank you. All right, Ems is up next. All right, very fun. So we have Pegasus in the back. We have Hercules. We have Hades. I will say, Ems, you have a great opportunity to add Phil here as well. And the challenge does mention Phil by name. And he is a mythological creature, so having Phil maybe right here, or maybe on this side next to Hercules could be really good. And that would just give you... And the other thing I would recommend here, Ems, would be... the other thing I would recommend would be some kind of mythological companion here. So it could be a baby Pegasus of some kind. It could be the Cerberus puppy if you have them. But getting a little... Because, you know, you do have a nice opportunity here. So if you added Phil here, you can add a little companion here. Could be very good to feature. And you can always kind of push him here and trap him with Touch of Magic items. And then once you get all your villagers' paws and everything is good, you can hide the items and just immediately snap the photo. Unless you're playing on PC and you can use the furniture key spam to freeze them in place. You know, that's also a possibility. But yeah, the Hercules house looks great in the back. Now, if you manage to progress in your star path a bit, this dress is actually really pretty with what you have. Like, it works really good with the tiara. It works really good with the bracers. So I do like the dress you're choosing. But if you have time before, you know, this challenge comes to an end, there's a really good dress you get pretty early on that I think is going to look even better. And that would be this one here, the Titan of Light top and the Titan of Light skirt. It's actually got this beautiful sparkle effect to it, and it's got some really nice gold qualities. Again, the dress you have on is I think, a very good choice if you haven't unlocked this yet. But if you do get this unlocked before this challenge comes to an end, I would consider this outfit. It plays really well with the theme. Could be really fun. That's if you have time, though. M says, I'd like to add Phil too. I was struggling because him and Hercules kept being in the shop at the same time. Yeah, it's annoying. It's so annoying. I wish the new villager toggle would just let us pull villagers from anywhere. That would be really nice. But yeah, hopefully you'll be able to find a time where they're not both in the restaurant or shop and you can get both of them in there. Heathen Dove is next. Why is it so small? There we go. That was weird. Very nice, Heathen Dove. Very nice. Love the Megara dress here. I like the Megara cosplay. That's really fun. We have Phil down here at the base. We have Hercules with the godly glow. We have Pegasus. We have a lot of the new Star Path items in the back, like this big stadium here, the open gate. Beautiful aurora in the sky. Lots of fireflies to play with all these gold notes. Feels very godly. And a great shot of the villagers, too. Fantastic lighting here. And I like the storytelling, you know, the way you're looking up at Hercules lovingly and you've got your hands like this, you know. Always a good idea to do a bit of storytelling with your pose, finding a unique way to pose that communicates, you know, the concept you're going for is a great way to be competitive. And again, wonderful shot of Pegasus here. Very good to include him. You got the whole gang, you know, Phil, Pegasus, Hercules, and you got a lot of the fun new items. Beautiful work. Even these little gold trees in the foreground. Very well done, Heathen Dove. He said, I love this theme, especially with all the new things we've gotten. I love how my snap came out, but I don't know if it will be enough, and I'm not sure how I can make it more. I can't wait to hear what you think. Thank you so much, as always, for your advice. Well, the tricky thing here, Heathen, is there's not much more you can do unless you changed the approach. When you create a snap where the characters are all at the front, you won't see into the setting as much. Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. But if you did add more, it would likely be kind of behind the characters, and it wouldn't really make much of a difference there. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think the way you've got the characters set up here is very nice. I don't think you necessarily need more. And also keep in mind, you know, the week of an update, when we first get this new update, there's going to be way more throwaway submissions because people are working through their star path. People will, you know, there's already a lot of random selfies and a lot of random quest photos out there, but the week of an update, there's even more, and there's way more submissions than normal because people are returning to the game. Not to mention, we have the unlimited skip feature, which means, you know, I think people will be seeking out, like, really beautiful snaps more often. So I think this has a great chance to perform well. I don't think you need to worry about, you know, doing more with it. I think you've done a great job. You know, you could do more with the setting if we could see more of the setting. But if you're going to go for the romance vibe where, you know, Meg and Hercules are right next to each other and we have Phil and, you know, and also if you're going to have Hercules right here, it is nice to balance it by having Pegasus on the other side. You know, it gives the photo really good balance. And then having the arena in the back stop right here and here, you know, everything is very balanced in the shot. So I wouldn't worry about doing more. The only thing I think would be if you wanted to, this is like a small thing. I don't even think it'll really matter too much. But you have your fireflies reaching all the way to the left side, but they stop just short of filling up the right side. So if you placed maybe a couple more just to get them to fill up from side to side, that's the only thing in the scene that's not as balanced as the rest. So, you know, the stadium is perfectly balanced on each side. The characters are perfectly balanced on each side. The foreground is perfectly balanced on each side. You've positioned the aurora to stretch across the entire photo. The only thing that doesn't go from left to right all the way would be the fireflies. So maybe a little bit more firefly action right here just to stretch them all the way across. Could be worth considering. But that's about it. I don't really think there's much more, you know, you would need to do here. Beautiful snap. Very well done. Snowdrop is next. Very cool, very cool. We got a very cool Pantheon kind of shot here. I think I'd like to go with this concept even if it's a risk not having companions or villagers unless you advise otherwise. I just have the base game. If two companions are equipped, there isn't a way to hide one but not the other, correct? That is correct. However, if you still want to use companions, even if you're hiding it, like here you're using, I believe, the goose bows, so you're likely going to hide the goose. But what you could do, Snowdrop, is you can attach a companion home to your scene, and you can have a companion walking around. I think you might already have that because I see the little Cerberus puppy over here. But if you include, you know, a pet house or two, and if you get, you know, just like a little, like if you unlock the new Pegasus from the Star Path, the little baby Pegasus, and you do have the Cerberus puppy, if you're able to get them kind of in the open, just featuring those companions would be great. Since the challenge does mention companions, I don't think it's something you're absolutely going to have in your photo. But with this new villager toggle being in play, people are going to find really clever and really creative ways to play with their villagers, and it's going to help them deliver a very nice wow factor. And if you come up against those photos, it could be tricky, you know, if people see a scene that is including multiple villagers, multiple companions, especially with the challenge directly referencing that. Some voters might gravitate towards your opponent if you pop up against those types of submissions in a 1v1 scenario, because they're going to say, well, I included pets and villagers because that's what the theme said. I'm going to vote for pictures that interpreted the theme the same way I did. So I do think it would be a good idea. And if anything, you could always just have Phil here, you know? And with the new villager toggle, you can just drop him into your scene. You know, you can have Phil, even if he's in a background character, you can have him back here. And you could even include Hercules back here if you wanted to. But I would consider adding villagers. It's not going to hurt your photo at all. It's not going to take away anything from your photo. It's only going to add value. And since you are like playing up this Greek pantheon kind of vibe, like this goddess vibe, having characters that play into that Greek mythology aspect, like I said, it's only going to be a net positive at the end of the day. And then if you do end up matched up against other players that are utilizing villagers and utilizing companions, it'll make you more competitive against them, and you'll still have this beautiful scene. But yeah, this is absolutely gorgeous. I love the way you set the wings up here. You know, the headpiece, the golden planet, the pose is super fun. The way you've surrounded yourself with the new pathway and the yellow flowers, the yellow and green mixed together with the outfit here, all very nice. The clouds overhead, you know, it has a very godly feel to it. It's really cool. Absolutely beautiful snap. I think it has a great shot at 4K. My only recommendation would be to consider adding Phil or Hercules or, you know, a baby Pegasus somewhere walking around if you can get them attached to a pet house. If you want to get a baby Pegasus walking through your scene, if you put a pet house over here on the left, you can hide a food bowl behind this pillar, and the pets will walk to it. So, and then they'll walk back to the pet house. So the way pets attached to the houses work is they will wander off from the house, then they'll wander back to the house. So you just need to make sure there's nothing obstructing the house, because then they'll get stuck there constantly trying to get to it. So if you set the house outside of the scene and you set up a little food bowl here, you can use the new Pegasus from the star path to get him walking through. You could add Phil or Hercules back here. You can add the other one over here, and you can still keep all the great value of this scene while bringing in, you know, those other aspects that the challenge referenced. Marie is next. I have two. I personally like the second one, but the first one I added another companion. Thank you as always for the advice and tips. Okay, so we have this one here. Very cool. I love seeing this dress. This is what we were talking about for M's. If you're able to unlock this M's, beautiful dress. Got the lightning rod here. Very cool. And then we have one more. Both of these are great options. This one, you have an additional companion with the new Star Path Pegasus, which I think is great. Pegasus looks good. Hercules looks good. This one has more of a godly feel to it because we have more beautiful gold light coming in. We got a nice reflection up here. We don't have the pet houses in front of the gates, so we can see, you know, all the gold or bronze on the gates here. We have the cornucopias at the base, and I do like the position of both Pegasus and Phil on the left, while Hercules is here on the right-hand side. But again, both of these are great options. This one does have an additional companion, but this one has even more of a godly feel. And I like the angle of your lightning bolt a little bit more in this one. In this one, the lightning bolt slightly goes out of the frame down here. But in this one, with you turn slightly, we get to see the full lightning bolt and this magnificent glow that you have on it. I think between the two, I do like this one a bit more. But they're both very good options. Beautiful work, though. I love the Athens gazebos here. The gateway. You did a great job with the paving. Yeah, very nice shot of Pegasus, Phil, Hercules. Great avatar design. She looks gorgeous. Very, very well done. But yeah, I definitely favor this one, Marie. I think this is really nice. And, you know, if you do want to add this little Pegasus, or if you have the Cerberus puppy and you want to add him too, You could always do the trick I was just talking about where you put the companion home slightly out of frame, and then you can put like a little food bowl behind you that we can't see, and that Pegasus will occasionally like walk in and out of the scene, and maybe you can get a good shot of him coming back down this way or something if you want to mess with it, but you don't need to have that. You have a mythical creature here with Pegasus. You know, you have a satyr with Phil, and it really feels like a legendary moment. You know, your character feels a lot like a Pantheon. You have the lightning bolts on the gate behind you, holding this lightning bolt in your hand. Very cool scene. And great job on the foreground. Bottom left-hand corner, very full. Bottom right-hand corner, very full. Very balanced photo. Overall, very solid work, Marie. I think this will do well. GG. We got option number 1 here. And then option number 2. So it's another fun, like, Meg Hercules approach. Beautiful build. I love the house in the back. Hercules' house looks really nice here. We have the Athens gazebos. These marble archways. You included Pegasus. Out of the two, I do think I like this one a bit more. It just makes the photo feel even more full. I know we don't get as much of that aurora in the sky, but you don't really need it here. Now, my biggest recommendation for this one would be, instead of using the Phil motif, you probably had to deal with them not both being available, and maybe the motif is just a placeholder for now. But I think when it comes to adding villagers to your scene, it's always going to be more competitive to use the actual villager rather than a motif. Unless that motif is doing something very special that the villager can't do. Like, you know, if you want Stitch reading a book, you have to use a motif. If you want Olaf laying down reading a book, you have to use the motif. But in this case, you know, if you want Phil looking slightly aggravated, you can use the new toggle, and you can use his anger pose and, you know, freeze him in that spot, and you can get the same effect here with the actual Phil within the Dreamsnap. I would consider that here. This is, I would guess, probably this is a placeholder for now. You might not have had him available. That might be why you have the motif here. Maybe they just both weren't available at the same time. But if you can retake this with Phil present, I think it will be worth it. The other thing you can consider is with some of the open space here and the open space on the right. If you're able to get a couple of mythological creatures in there, some little pets, could be very good to add, could make the photo even more competitive. Overall, beautiful work. You know, great pathway, great paving, beautiful flowers, very godly scene, you know, playing up a lot of the beautiful new items. Looks great. Good lighting. Black Knight is next. Hi, Sabai. I thought the sun was going to be behind me, but it ended up being off to the side a bit. I'm not using the Mythopia grass anymore, so I can rebuild on a floating island if needed. Also, I meant to remove the 2 trees in the back on the left. I originally had a slightly different idea for the snap. Okay. Well, here's what's really fun, Black Knight. If you do end up wanting to move the snap so you can get that good lighting quality, now you can use the group select option. So you no longer are going to need to just tear everything down and rebuild it all step by step. You can group select, save it as a preset, and then move it to a new location. Now, with group select, I don't believe you're going to be able to select houses or pathing, but still you can move like 90% of this, and the other 10%, you know, you can just re-add. But yeah, with how many of these scenes we're seeing that just have this absolutely beautiful lighting, and how well the gold notes and a lot of this architecture plays with that lighting, I do think making sure you have some great light hitting your scene this week is going to be a very solid approach. Otherwise, I think it might be a little difficult to compete with some of these snaps, because there's a lot of them out there that are, you know, really playing up that high level of lighting, especially with all this like golden brass trim on a lot of these new items, the way it catches the sunlight. I mean, here, you know, it looks absolutely beautiful. We get this, you know, gorgeous light reflection here. And then we see it on the gate as well. We see it on the avatar's outfit, like the bracer is reflecting, the waistline here reflecting, the piece descending from the shoulder. You know, we get all this great light quality from having that sun behind the camera this week. And I think it's going to be a very important week for that. So, again, on the bright side, a lot easier to move your scene now. So, I would consider it. Now, as far as everything else here, I think it's looking really solid. You know, you have Phil, you have Pegasus, you have Hercules, and you even have a little baby Pegasus here, another baby Pegasus here. The house, the arena set, the fountains. And if you progress in the star path a bit, I do see you're using these like golden plants. If you do have time before the challenge ends to get these new golden plants, they're a lot taller and they have like fruit hanging from them. They are absolutely wonderful as foreground elements. You can see them here. We can see them here. So I would advise using those as well, because it's going to make the foreground a little bit less repetitive. So it's not, you know, we're not seeing the same item all the way across. You can always do one of the taller plants in the left corner, one in the right corner, and then maybe one or two of these smaller ones in the cornucopia. I think that would be worth considering for sure. But yeah, for a secondary review, I would love to see this moved to a location where you can get the sunlight coming in. And the nice thing, too, is if you move it to a floating island, if you do decide to take that route, you know, you can still build up the background. There's a lot of good, tall... Like, if you did get any of the new bundles, like if you use one of the new houses here, Hercules' house is a bit taller than those, so that could be a great background item as well. If you wanted to kind of switch things around if you move to a new place, that way you can still have some good background elements. Overall, solid, though. Great use of villagers, great use of companions. And if we get some more light on the avatar, I think we can get a very nice beauty factor out of her. I do think for your outfit, it's going to be a great idea to use like the gold bracers once you get some more sun, because you're going to get some nice light reflecting, you know, off of that as well instead of the rope. It's going to match with the dress very nicely, kind of like the tiara does, or the there's a name for this, that headpiece. Ginger Snap is next. Hoping this fits the theme. Thank you as always for the review. All right, so we have Pegasus. We have a lot of little baby Pegasus in the shot. We have Phil over here. Yeah, I would say this definitely fits the theme, you know. You got, it feels like a legendary moment. You got great mythological companions. You have a mythological creature here with Pegasus. The outfit's really fun. You have the lightning bolt here. I would say if there's a way you can get the avatar's facial expression. You see how in this one she has a light smile? It might be the mouth selection you might have to change to get this when customizing your avatar. Like the thinner, longer mouth that you have on this one. If you choose the one that has the slightly pursed lips, you can get a little bit of a smile on her face without having to use the facial expressions. Because if you use the facial expressions built into the camera, it's really weird. Their eyes always like look downward, and a lot of the facial expressions look really goofy, and they don't bring up that beauty factor. But I will say, you know, this person is using the same pose as you. But we get a lot more beauty in the facial expression of the avatar for this one versus this one. And same thing I said here with Black Knights, if you can progress a little bit more in the star path, you can use these new golden plants that have like the golden fruit hanging down. They catch the light very nice. You can still have your little golden plants in there as well, but it would add some nice oh, you do have them. You just have them in the back. I would take some of these, and I would put one on the right-hand side here and one on the left-hand side here. I think they make for amazing foreground options. And unlike these golden plants, the new ones actually sparkle, which makes them very strong in the foreground. They're really nice. So I would consider using these new golden fruit plants at the front of your scene rather than in the background. You can still have them in the background as well, but I would definitely consider having them here. And it might be worth, you know, since you have Hercules' house here, I think it would be nice to have Hercules on this side with Phil. And then that would allow you to bring Pegasus up, and you can have Pegasus closer, but surrounded by the baby Pegasus. I think that could be really fun. You know, just ideas, just ideas. You can always keep this one saved to your gallery and try some of those approaches, and you might like it even more. But yeah, looking really good so far. Bell B is next. Beautiful avatar. Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it very much, says Bell. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. So we have a great shot of the avatar here. Great shot of Pegasus. Great shot of Hercules. Though, I do think it would be worth having Phil. And with the new villager toggle system, I think scenes that are playing up the avatar, the villagers like a little more prominently, I think are going to see great performance. Just like, you know how it's always really important to have the it's a big meta in Dreamsnaps to feature the avatar well. The same thing applies to villagers. They don't always need to be as prominent as the avatar, but making sure they are very well featured is a great competitive way to approach the challenges. Like for Marvels of Nature, you know, this one got ranked 94 or something. And we do have the avatar at the closest point. And this was, you know, right when we got Pocahontas, the same week. This was update week. And we can see Pocahontas featured just a tiny bit further back than the avatar. And this performed very well. You know, this ended up in the top 100 submissions. And having Pocahontas so prominently featured here and playing up the beauty of Pocahontas, I think, was a big part of that. So, if this snap were to pop up against snaps where, you know, Pegasus and Hercules and Phil are being featured a bit more prominently, and people are really taking advantage of those, those new toggle features, I think it could pose issues in some 1v1s. The scene is gorgeous. You got some really nice light coming in here. You got really good lighting in the scene. I wouldn't change anything with the background, but if you were to approach the foreground a bit differently, rather than having this really skinny pathway with the fountains on each side, if we did something different with the front of the scene, we could feature Hercules better, we could bring in Phil, we could feature Pegasus better, and with the new villager toggles, I think those are things that are going to make snaps a bit more competitive this week. So I would consider it. You can always keep this one saved to your gallery. And if you try that and it doesn't feel right to you, or it doesn't come across, the way you would like, then you can just fall back to this one because it's a very strong snap either way. But yeah, I would keep the background the way it is. I would experiment with the foreground and, you know, this area here, which could enable you to bring, you know, Hercules doesn't have to be as close as you. So I wouldn't say he needs to be this close unless you're doing a romance thing with Meg. But, you know, like we see him here, this is great positioning for Hercules, great positioning for Phil. And like we see him in this scene. You know, Phil is very prominent. Hercules is very prominent. And I would say, beauty-wise, this is very even with yours. You know, your scene is very beautiful. This scene is very beautiful. So if they popped up against each other, the deciding factor may come down to, you know, for some voters, well, this one included Phil, who was named in the challenge, and the characters play a bit more of a role here. So I'm going to go with this one. So I think a good way to make this a bit more competitive would be to really take advantage of that new villager toggle and consider featuring Phil, Pegasus, Hercules a bit more prominently in the scene. Again, background I think is perfect. And the foreground does look really good. It's just with the fountains and with the fencing, you know, it kind of forces you to have the villagers in the back. And also, since the fence is tall, even if you were to add Phil, we wouldn't really see him. But yeah, looking really beautiful here. Even if you don't make changes, I think this has a great shot at 4K. My only concern would be 1v1 matchups where they match you on beauty, but also feature villagers very well within the photo. Skylar is next. After fighting in Mythopia, I finally gave up and rebuilt on a floating island. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to deal with the I don't really want to deal with the whole floating island issue. Or I mean the whole Mythopia issue with the toggle. The toggle is so good. First feels darker, but might be okay. Then I did 2 different outfits and tried to get Hercules and Phil brighter, but now it feels too bright. Upping the character lighting just washed me out. Also, not sure if it's legendary moments enough. Any advice is appreciated, as always. All right, so we have this one here. Then you have this one here. And this one here. So in these, it looks like you may have adjusted contrast as well. I would be very cautious with contrast. I see a lot of Dreamsnaps underperform when they boost contrast. But yeah, it's either boosted contrast or very high saturation. But throughout pretty much all of my submissions, if you look through them, like I pretty much never touch contrast. Because I've seen a lot of Dreamsnap results where the contrast was boosted, underperforming. And what we see very often in the 4K range, especially in like the top 1000, are these well-saturated photos that still feel very sharp and very real. And when you pick up the contrast, sometimes it makes it feel a bit different, almost cartoony in a way, like more cartoony. Like in this one, you know, I think the lighting and saturation here is very nice. But yeah, that increased contrast kind of changes the feel of the image a bit. And again, it's not that I dislike contrast personally, it's just that I see so many results where the contrast is a bit heavier, underperforming, and you know, that's one of the reasons I'm cautious with it. And I often feel like you can get a great beauty factor without it. Now, I do love the framing of this shot. You got a great shot of Phil here. Yo, thank you for the 145 Power Puff. Thank you, thank you. Commented on my Dreamsnap Plum Bob in Discord, and it accidentally bumped me to the end of the line. Any chance I can still get a review today? Well, I don't know where you were in the queue. That's, let me see. Oh, somebody else commented on it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, since you weren't the one that commented on it, I'll take care of it. Reminder, guys, it is against the rules to comment on somebody else's Dreamsnap submission. You're moving them out of the queue when you do that. Please read the rules. And Ashley, if you have a chance, could you please go to Plumbob's submission and just send a message or just at the person that commented on it and let them know that, you know, this is not a public forum. I don't lock it because I want you guys to be able to upload, but if you comment on somebody else's submission, you're kicking them out of the queue. So please do not do that. It is in the rules, and, you know, I don't want to have to enforce the rules, like, too strictly, but if people, you know, if we give you warnings and you continue breaking the rules, you might lose access to these channels. So please keep that in mind. You know, following the rules, very important, very important. All right, back to Skylar's here. And you also talked about not sure if it's legendary moment enough. Well, you know, there's ways to communicate legendary moments. You know, I think, like, some people have done it through, you know, holding, like, the lightning bolt. And then just having these characters around can be a legendary moment, you know. There are some really creative ways to communicate legendary moments, like riding on Pegasus, but then you're not going to be able to feature the avatar as well. And then, you know, other ways, like doing a bit of storytelling with how you position your companions. So there's a lot of good ways to communicate legendary moments. Now, as for your outfit, I would say I like this one a bit more than this one. This one is fun. But I think they would both do about the same in performance, you know. This is my personal preference for between these two. But this one would probably be a bit more unique. Still very fun. And yeah, you have Phil featured very well here. You have Hercules featured very well here. Good magical qualities with the fireflies in the back. Between the three, I would say this one is probably the best one for now. And you don't really need to up the character lighting when you're using sunset time of day. It's not something you really have to do unless the characters are in a shadow. So at nighttime, character lighting is extremely necessary. And if you're capturing the sun setting in the back of your photo where you have no light hitting your avatar, character lighting is also extremely necessary. But I don't have any character lighting here. Did just fine. No character lighting here. I did boost my character lighting here because I faced away from the sun when I turned for this pose. I don't believe I have any character lighting here. No lighting here. No character lighting here. None here. None here. None here. Some here. None here. None here. None here. Otherwise, Ariel would be glowing in the shadow. So, yeah. And, you know, all those snaps got 4K. You know, some of them ranked in the top 100. You really don't need to worry too much about character lighting if everyone is very well lit and very prominently featured. Character lighting can be a fun way to give your character, like, some kind of ethereal glow to make them look like, you know, kind of like Hercules with his glow here. But it's not something you really have to worry about. Your character is already very well lit. You know, Phil looks really good here. The only thing I would consider for your snap, you know, if you wanted to add to it, you could do a little bit more in the foreground, like maybe some of the other golden plants. Maybe the golden cornucopias down here as well. Could be very fun because you do have some space between these pillars and the plants. So you can get some more fun gold at the base of the shot. And you can also include companions. I know you're hiding your companion right now, but if you put a companion house outside of your scene and you added a little food bowl hidden behind you or hidden behind Phil, you can get a little Pegasus walking through the shot, potentially. Or the little Cerberus puppy. So there's some fun ways you could bring some pets in here too. Since the challenge did mention companions, I think it's a good idea to highlight one or two if possible. But yeah, looking really good so far, Skylar. And again, I wouldn't worry too much about the character lighting. And just be very mindful and be very careful with the contrast. Now for Plum Bob, let's see. I can check the time on yours. Yesterday at 11:40 p.m. Okay. So Miss Spock was before you. Punchy was before you. Caroline's before you. You're going to be after Caroline. So you'll be coming up in about 4 snaps. All right, Miss Spock is next. Here's my split shot. Is it too risky? Is it on theme enough? Thank you for the review as always. I had fun playing with the new villager toggles. Yeah, it is very cool. And I do think it's like a good legendary moment. You got the little Cerberus with Hades. Great shot of Hades. Great shot of Hercules and Phil and Pegasus. My only concern here is there's so many people playing up the beauty of these new items. And there's some really breathtakingly beautiful snaps this week. And you know how voters are. You know how much they tend to prioritize beauty. If anything, beauty often is prioritized over concept. Now, if 2 photos match in beauty, concept comes into play very heavily. But with so many breathtakingly beautiful snaps that are playing up, like all these new reflective items, all these great new Starpath items, I would say the biggest risk of this is, you know, with the avatar and the battle stance with the smirk, not going to have the best beauty factor here. And then we don't really get to see any of the new items here, which is also a bit of a risk. Like, we can see hints of the new items. Like, we can see the new statue back here. We can see Hercules' house. But most of what we see here is stuff we've had for ages, right? And stuff we just got in the last update. So we have the leafy rugs. We have the little magma tears that we got in the last Starpath. We have Hades. We have Hades' house. We have the pyro boxes. And then on this side, most of what we see is the marble, you know, or the golden opal path. So I like the concept you're going for here, but I mean, if I'm being honest, you know, if I would probably vote for this over it, I would probably vote for this over it. And I would probably vote for this over it. The level of detail and the level of beauty in these snaps make them very competitive. And this is, you know, not only is this what a lot of your average voters gravitate towards, but this is, you know, I actually align with the average voters on this. Snaps that have very good detail, very good lighting, and strong composition are some of my favorite scenes. So there's going to be a lot of snaps out there like this. I mean, you know, we've only reviewed a few snaps so far, and there's so many that just have a breathtaking level of beauty. And the concept here is cool. But with so many of these snaps playing up so many of these beautiful new items, voters love seeing the new items. They love seeing new characters, which is why the very first challenge of the last update, which was Marvels of Nature, we were able to get a rank 90 or so submission by going out of our way to play up the new stuff. We played up the new canoe. We played up the new glowing algae. We played up the new blossom trees. We played up the new willow trees. We played up Pocahontas' new house. We played up the new villager. You do have some new stuff in your scene, but really playing up these new items, it's exciting to see for voters. And not to mention, a lot of these things have a very, very high beauty factor. So I would say what I would be worried about with your photo would be the fact that, you know, on the entire left side, the only thing we have that's really different would be the Cerberus puppy, and he's kind of in the shadow here and not facing the camera. And on the right side, you know, we can see Hercules' house, but it's buried in the background. And we get the new villagers, but there's no detail in the foreground. You know, the foreground is empty. Now, all of that said, Miss Spock, that by no means means you're not going to get 4K. As we discussed, often the easiest weeks to get 4K are going to be these update weeks. There's more players, there's more voters, there's way more submissions. So this could potentially still do well. I'm just pointing out that if it pops up against some of these other snaps, I think it's going to have a hard time. Punchy LaRue. Artemis is the shot I've submitted. I did try it with Sunset, but I have a lot of shadow, and Phil is hard to see, so I went with the hour before. I also did a Medusa shot, which I love, but I think it will have a hard time getting 4K. Okay. So we have this one here. A very fun wide shot. And yeah, the way you made the Medusa is really cool, but the settings on this, I would definitely approach your camera settings very differently here. Like if you want to build an area that has like a lot of magma, and you know, you can do that without raising or adding heavy shadow and adding heavy contrast to the scene. There's ways to make that work. You can play up the magma with the leafy rugs, with the magma rocks, with volcanic rock. And then for the darker patches, you can use the Forgotten Lands brick road here. So there's a lot of ways you could build a scene like that without having to have the scene this dark. So I do agree that this one could have a harder time getting 4K. Now for this scene, when it comes to using sunset, Punchy, that's why you have to choose your area wisely if you want to use sunset time of day. You can't really use sunset time of day where the sun's going to be behind a mountain because it's going to make your scene too dark. So there are areas in Mythopia where you could have used sunset. And the nice thing, too, that you can keep in mind, Punchy, is that now with the new preset option, you can literally just pick up your whole build and move it if you wanted to. So if you want to use sunset lighting, you can. So our sun is going to be over here. Right now it's a little cloudy. There we go. Let me roll my time back. The sun is set. Okay. So this pocket here has really good sunset lighting. This pocket here has great sunset lighting. And pretty much this whole area here in the statue's shadow has wonderful sunset lighting. And the benefit of this, too, is that you actually get a really good view of Mount Olympus from this biome. So there's plenty of places you could go, Punchy, where you could actually make the most of sunset lighting if you wanted to. That said, you can use daytime lighting. Yo, thank you for the raid. Welcome, welcome. So daytime lighting is always a good option. Now, the other tricky thing is, you know, the villager toggle is kind of bugged in Mythopia, which is unfortunate. But you don't have to use Mythopia to make the most of, you know, these new items. Like, this is on what appears to be a floating island. As is this. And as is this. So, you can get great value out of this new decor on a floating island and still have that Greek mythology feel without having to use Mythopia. Now, you know, the benefit of Mythopia is that you get little details like this, but it's very minor, very small. And then you get like the, you know, the cliff walls, which are kind of cool. But I would say, you know, a lot of these new items look a lot better than cliff walls. The trickiest thing right now with Mythopia, what makes it a real headache, is you're just not going to be able to use the villager toggle to its full ability. You're not going to be able to put the villagers right where you want them. You can get them close to other items. There's like workarounds for it. It's just a headache. Which is why floating islands are very popular this week, even though Mythopia is a good option. Overall, it's a pretty snap, though. You know, it's a pretty outfit. If you were to be able to use sunset, though, rather than midday, look at the beautiful light bouncing off of the gauntlet here. Look at the beautiful light bouncing off of the belt. Look at the beautiful light bouncing off of this shoulder strap. Look at the light bouncing off of, you know, these building pieces, off of this statue here. So you get all this beautiful light reflection because the sun is lower. And you also have things like these golden plants for your foreground that can be really nice. So if you move to an area like the statue's shadow, and again, you can just group select everything and just move it. You would get some really good light reflection on these gauntlets, on the headpiece. We have a little bit here. Now, this is really only going to matter if you match up against these types of photos. And on the first week of an update, like I mentioned, there's way more throwaway submissions from people doing the star path. So you'll have better odds this week of not popping up against these, but that doesn't mean you won't. So the best way to approach Dreamsnaps, the best way to consistently get 4K is always assume you're going to pop up against these and design your Dreamsnaps with that in mind. Anyone can get 4K any given week because anyone can beat selfies and quest photos. As long as you do the theme and you make a pretty snap, you can get 4K. But that doesn't mean you're going to. To get 4K consistently, I advise, always playing up your snaps as if you're going to pop up against some of the best ones. Again, love the outfit design here. And if you have Wish Blossom Ranch, why not add Pegasus? You have a baby Pegasus here, and you have a lot of space. So you could have Pegasus himself right here. That's another mythological creature. You already have a mythological companion here, and you have a mythological villager. But you could also add Pegasus. You can even add Hercules. You can even add Hades. Like we saw with Left Sharks, we have Hades, we have the little 3-headed Cerberus puppy. We have Hercules, we have Phil, we have the new baby Pegasus, and Pegasus himself. So we have all these great characters on display. So there's definitely some things that can make this more competitive. And on the bright side, it's very easy to move your scene now if you desire to do so. Overall, it's a pretty scene, though. And it is on theme. So, of course, it does have a shot at 4K. All right, we have Caroline. And then we're going to get Plum Bob. Okay, very fun, Caroline. Very fun. Great shot of Pegasus. Got the little Mickey cloud. Great shot of Phil. Could be worth having a little companion in here as well, since it's mentioned in the theme. You could do one of the baby Pegasus. You could do the 3-headed puppy if you have them. But you do have an opportunity for one maybe right here and right here. Again, a great way to do that would be to put a companion home slightly outside of frame and then put a little food bowl behind you that we can't see. And those pets will walk to the food bowl, and then they'll walk back to their companion house, and then they'll be walking right through your scene, like right here or right here. A little baby Pegasus right next to Pegasus walking by could be super cute. Overall, well-lit photo. You got Phil featured well. You got Pegasus in the scene, so that's great. You could potentially add Hercules to the background if you wanted as well. Not really much space for him here near the front. Looking good so far, Caroline. Looking good. Only minor concern would be, with some of these shots where the sun is setting, their colors are a lot more vivid. And as we've seen with a lot of voters, they love these vivid shots. They love shots that have good saturation levels. And with all of these new gold items, with that sunset lighting, we get really nice light on all of these gold notes or bronze notes. We see it here on the statue. And also on the outfits, it looks really good. With more of the daytime lighting here, the gold won't pop as much. This will still beat most snaps, though. I'm just saying, I think the only struggle for scenes like this would be if they match up against scenes like this that do have that nice warm sunset lighting. that are making the most of, you know, these reflective gold qualities in a lot of these new items and on these new outfits. Plum Bob is next. Got 1, 2, and 3. Very cool, very cool. So we got a battle scene here. Love how you got Phil. Hercules. Great shot of Hades here. The battle stance is really fun, especially the way you're kind of hiding the lightsaber. The shield looks great. I love all the catastrophic stuff going on here, like the spirit fires and the Mushu fireworks and the shooting stars. Very cool, very cool. I definitely like the tilted angle more. It makes it a bit more chaotic. For action scenes or battle scenes, I love camera tilt. Also, having Hercules in this one is really fun. And now for this one, we have more of a stadium style. The downside to this one would be scene visibility. For foreground, I usually don't use things that are quite this large. And it doesn't have quite the detail that this one does. Though, you know, as we mentioned, voters really love beauty. And there's a lot of that in some of these snaps that play up the new items that we've already taken a look at. It really depends on performance here. Like, I would 100% vote for this. I think this is really cool. I love the battle stance. I like the way you have Phil and Hades set up a lot. And again, I love all the chaotic elements. I think this is super fun. Now, how it performs against some of these, like, you know, very beautiful scenes, it's going to depend on what kind of voters you get, you know. Some people may feel like, you know what, this feels more like a legendary moment. You know, it's a battle against Hades with Phil and Hercules. You know, feels very legendary. But other voters may just choose your opponent based on, well, this picture is so pretty compared to that one. It's tough, you know. I love concepts like this, but it's always a dice roll. It's a high-risk, high-reward scenario. So it could work out either way, you know. It could end up not performing as well because you got matched up against some really beautiful snaps that played up the high level of beauty of all these new items. Or it could perform extremely well because it plays up the legendary moments portion of the challenge very well. And approaches the challenge in a super unique and interesting way. At the end of the day, you know, it's all going to come down to what kind of voters you get. I typically take the safer route, you know, because I just like getting the moonstones, and I have fun making the safer scenes anyway. But I love stuff like this, and I would definitely vote for stuff like this. Beautiful builds that are well lit, that feature villagers well. You know, we've seen time and time again that things like this just appear to be very loved by voters. But we do see things like this in 4K as well. So at the end of the day, you know, it all just comes down to what kind of voters you get here. Like I said, I really like it. I think it's really cool. This is definitely the best of the three you have, in my opinion. It features the villagers best. The camera tilt really adds to the combat element. And you've got some really cool features here, like the Storyteller fire kind of wafting up on the side, the Mushu fireworks. So yeah, amazing photo. Very fun. And I love the way you built out the underworld. It might not play up a lot of the new items, but it does play up the new villagers and the new wardrobe options very well. So yeah, super cool scene. Dailyonica says, hi, Senpai. I'm from the Philippines, so I can't always join the streams from the moment you go live. I'll be watching the VOD as soon as I wake up, so if I'm not responsive in chat, that's why. Second, I don't know who gifted me a Twitch sub, but thank you so much. My time zone is weird, so I was in a long meeting when it happened. I couldn't properly show gratitude on stream, but I hope you're here listening. Oh, well, shout out to the sub gifters. Look at that, you guys. Look at that. Finally, it was getting so hard getting Cerberus in the photo. I couldn't make him my companion because I really wanted to use the giddy pose that comes with the dragons. I had to hide a companion house somewhere in the build and wait for him to show up in frame. Thank you for any constructive criticism. If the image seems blurry, it's because it's from Switch 2. No, it doesn't seem blurry. It's pretty sharp. Looks good. As far as getting your... It is good you got him in frame here. And I don't know if you have a food bowl behind you, but that's a great way to get them to walk in the frame a bit more often. So if you have a companion house set up, you could put, you know, a little food bowl behind Phil or behind your avatar. You might have done that. That might be how you got him in there. But that can also work if you want to get a little baby Pegasus in here. Now, I don't know if you have Wish Blossom Ranch, but if you do, I think that could be really good for you here because you could use Pegasus as well. Like you have Phil, you have Hercules, you have the little Cerberus puppy. I wouldn't cover this beautiful cloud back here, but potentially you could put Pegasus maybe right here behind you or behind Herc or even off to the side. If you can fit him back there somewhere. Could be really fun to add him in, though. The sunset time of day is beautiful here. You got some great light bouncing off the top of this. This is what I meant for beauty. You know, we see this a lot this week. There's a lot of people playing up that really heavenly feel. You know, we see more beautiful light reflection here. We see it here. We see it on the statue here. And then, you know, you got the godly Hercules glow. Great shot of Phil. And I do love your pose. The dress is really fun. We got some good gold reflecting on the bracers. For the foreground, if you have them, I do think it could be fun to include those. That's if you've progressed enough in the star path. But those gold plants, these guys here. Well, let me show you on this side because I'm not blocking it. These new fruit plants. They sparkle, they catch the sunlight really well, and since you're using the sunset time of day, these could be very nice to have in your scene. See, overall, beautiful scene, really nice lighting, good light bouncing off of the building in the back here on the gazebos, and it's awesome. You got the little Cerberus puppy in there, and again, you know, if you want to try the trick with the food bowls, you can get the pets kind of walking in and out of the scene that way. And if you can find a way to squeeze Pegasus in here, even if you have his head popping off, you know, in the side or something, could be very fun. You know, you'll have pretty much the whole crew, except for Hades, which could be really good. Beautiful scene. Well done, well done. Jedi Lauren, very cool, very cool. We got this one, and we got this one. Awesome scenes here. I've been waiting to create, I've been waiting to kind of create one of my favorite snaps I made in the past. I think now is the time. Thank you so much for any advice. Changed the bottom corner to lava. Thought maybe it fit better than just some rocks. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, in the first one, yeah, we had like the shiny gems, the volcanic rock, and now you went into, yeah, a bit of lava. Yeah, very cool. I do like that change. it balances well, you know, because on the left-hand side, you have all of this action with the little fruit plant, and then with the magma stones. Also, it's cool that the shiny magma stones now have the shiny effect as well. See, I do like the change here with the new one. Better for balance. And this really does look like a legendary moment. That's one thing I really like about this. The way you're holding the staff up, the armor, Phil and Hercules, the dragons. You even have Pegasus in the back. Yeah, very, very cool Jedi. I featured this one on Facebook today. I think I might have used it on the thumbnail too. But yeah, I really like what you did here. If you want like a fun tall building for the background, Hercules' house is a bit taller than a lot of these. Though the picture's really balanced, and if you did put it behind the house in the middle, it probably wouldn't show up too well anyway. But yeah, really cool. You know, one thing people are going to see when they're voting is, you know, the phrase legendary moments. And this feels very legendary and very beautiful. So you were able to do, you know, a great legendary scene while simultaneously playing up the same beauty elements a lot of other people are. See, I think this is very competitive. It's looking really good. Very well done, Jedi. I feel like this has a great shot at 4K. Poppy is next. Got option 1 here. And option number 2. Hi, and thanks for the review. I'm away for the weekend, so want to quickly put something together for a review. I wanted Hercules in as well, but was pushed for time, so hopefully I can catch him when I'm back. As always, thanks for the review. Yeah, getting Hercules in would be great. I love that you got Pegasus in there. Got the new little baby Pegasus. We got Phil. Great shot of Phil here. The new golden planets on the sides look really nice. And you're playing up a lot of the new items. Almost looks like glittering dune sand here. It does pair nicely with the gold, though. I would take the mailbox off the house. I know it's a very tiny detail, but I would leave that out. Yeah, love the Muse statue here. And good job on the makeup as well. Yeah, and then when you do bring in Hercules, you do have some good spots for him. I would probably do him on the right-hand side, since on the left you already have Phil and Pegasus. Overall, very solid shot. Lots of beauty. I see you have the little Cerberus puppy here as well, but we just get the top of his head. Keep in mind that trick I mentioned earlier. If you put a companion home outside of your frame and you hide the pet ball or the pet food dish behind your avatar or behind some decor, the pet will walk from the pet house to that item and then back, and they'll just keep doing that. Just make sure there's nothing obstructing the pet house, because if they can't touch it, they'll get stuck on it, and they'll just keep bumping their head on it. It's really stupid, but, you know, Gameloft didn't do the best designing the way the pets move. So that could be a great way, because I know you're trying to feature the Cerberus puppy. But yeah, by hiding that food bowl, you can get him kind of walking in and out of the shot, and that could be a great way to include him, or multiple mythological pets, if you wanted more. Looking good so far, Poppy. Sabelina is next. Very cool avatar design. Love the wings here, catching the light very nicely. We got the little gold cornucopias here. Great shot of Pegasus. We got Phil. We got the little Cerberus puppy. Great shot of the puppy. With how big Pegasus is, I do think it would be awesome to bring in Hercules to balance that out. So if you have Pegasus on the right-hand side, we can have Hercules and Phil on the left-hand side. I love that you got the new cloud item sending some beams of light behind you here too. It makes you look like you have a glowing feel to the avatar. She feels like a Pantheon, so very, very cool. Overall, very solid scene, Sabelina. Very solid. Yeah, I think Herc could be fun to add here. He's very popular this week, and people do love seeing new characters, and I think that would balance things out very well with the size of Pegasus. Looking great, looking great. Carolyn says, first I tried with the fairy build, but after seeing everybody going in the Greek mythology, I believe the average voter might think of this as a missed topic. Therefore, here's my tip for a heroic snap. No, I don't think people assume... the issue is not that people would feel like you're off topic if you do fairies. I mean, the challenge even says you can do fairies. But I wouldn't do fairies or aliens. And I'll tell you why. It's not because people are going to think it's off theme. You know, the challenge states, create a world of wonder with fantastical characters like Phil and Tinkerbell, satyr, fairy, or even alien. And then we even see an example scene here with fairies. So it's very unlikely people are going to see fairies and say, you didn't do the theme. But what is very likely is that people will tend to prefer this direction. Because, again, voters love seeing new stuff. You know, we've had so many fairy challenges. We really have. There's been loads of them. Fairy's something we've all seen before. You know, a lot of people played up Tinkerbell for City by Moonlight. They played up fairy vibes for that. For Small Wonders, you know, this was a very fairy-inspired kind of challenge. There were loads of fairy submissions there. And, you know, we've had challenges like Fairy Haven. The only Greek mythology challenge we've ever had was Mythological Chic. So there hasn't been much in terms of Greek mythology-inspired snaps. And we've never had so many good items to play with them before. So I don't think the average voter is going to think you're off theme, but I do think the average voter is likely going to prefer seeing these snaps that play up the mythological side of things. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can approach the theme this week and still be on theme. But the beauty factor of these new items is kind of off the charts. And again, people love seeing new things when the update comes out in Dreamsnaps. Just like for the beginning of the last update when we had the Marvels of Nature challenge. People that used the new houses, the new trees, the new storyteller fires, the new glowing algae, the new villager, the new companion, the new outfits, they outperformed. Because it's fun and exciting to see what people do with these new items. We've seen fairy builds 100 times. You know, not 100 times. There's not been 100 challenges with them, but we've seen hundreds of those submissions in previous challenges. So, yeah, I don't think people are going to assume it's off theme if you do fairies. But I do think you're going to be a bit safer if you go in, you know, these kinds of directions. Now, that one's really fun. So these are all really cool. But one of the things I would consider, look at the sunset lighting here. Look at how good it looks on the gold. Notice how these wings are catching all this beautiful light. Notice how the gold notes on the gate are reflecting that sunlight quality. And that's not just with this photo. It's with so many of these. Because that sunset time of day just gives your photo more saturation, more color. And when you're playing around with items that reflect light, items that have these gold qualities, it's going to bring out the best of them. And that's why you see so many people taking this route. Like, look at the colors here. Again, you don't have to do this. But not doing this and then popping up against these types of photos in a 1v1 scenario is going to be challenging. So if you can do this, I would consider it, because it'll put you on equal footing with a lot of these amazing submissions. If you look at players in my community that get 4K very consistently, people like Beyblade, people like Mama Dukes, they're almost always using that sunset time of day. Almost always. Because it does offer such amazing natural lighting for your scene. Now, the reason you might be using the midday lighting here is perhaps you built this in a place where if you use sunset, it's going to be in the shadows, right? Perhaps something's casting a big shadow on your scene. If that's the case, you can just move it. You can move the scene somewhere else. If you're trying to capture Mount Olympus in the background, here I am in the statue shadow biome. You can see Mount Olympus. And we have loads of natural sunlight and loads of space. So this could be a good location to build. But that is one thing I would consider for your scene. Great shots overall, though. You know, these are very fun. Aside from that, I do think you can do a bit more for this space here rather than just dropping 6 lightning bolts on the ground. The lightning bolts are cool and on theme, but what about the golden cornucopia? You know, you have the golden plant. What if we put a little golden cornucopia here and here? What if we put another set of these plants in the back? I would diversify the way you're decorating this space right here, because this is right at the middle of your scene. And having this space wide and open and just using the same pocket item multiple times is not really what I would say as the most competitive way to approach decorating a space like this. Item diversity is huge. You know, when you can have a lot of fun and interesting items built in your scene and have them feel natural, it's a great way to approach Dreamsnaps. And you'll see that in a lot of the scenes I create. And it tends to perform well. You know, when we look at these spaces, there's all kinds of fun and interesting items. We're not reusing, you know, the same assets. Where we have, you know, some things are the same, like we have a blue starfish here and here, but there's so many different items involved. And you'll see that, you know, throughout a lot of my submissions. Like here, instead of just, you know, playing up sunflowers, we have sunflowers, luminescent flowers, these wish blossom flowers, these little white daisies, eternity owl bushes, poppies, birds of paradise, reeds, green poppies, you know, a log, a stone, a bush. There's like all these little items here. Now, I'm not saying you got to pack them in like that, but that item diversity is very good for Dreamsnap performance. Meredith is next. Okay. I tried a split scene for the first time. I'd appreciate your input and advice on how to make it better. Well, when it comes to a split scene, Meredith, the best way to approach it is to create a very convincing divide. The fact that we see a swamp tree on the left and then these, similar trees on the right, the fact that we see the same grass on both sides, is going to hurt the way this works as a split scene. So let's look at a split scene example. I have a couple of examples. So first we have Inside Out, right? We did a split scene here. Notice how my avatar completely divides the scene. Her hat goes all the way to the top, and her pants come all the way to the bottom. She splits the scene right down the middle. If we zoom in on this side, you don't see any of the same grass. You don't see any of the same environment. It's a completely different feel on the left as opposed to on the right. And that's how you want to design a split scene. That's how you get a split scene to feel very convincing. Like you're looking at two different worlds on each side. Now, another example, like if the avatar doesn't go all the way to the top, there's still a way to do it well. For Thorns and Roses, we have a split scene. And I'm not nearly as close here. The silhouette is the divider. And the avatar still. Then we have some fireworks up at the top. But still, when we look at the right side, it's all this black brick for the thorn side, and all this green grass for the rose side. So two very distinctly different environments. When it comes to creating split scenes, Meredith, this is a lot more of a technical approach. I wouldn't really dive into a concept like this unless you're very, very comfortable with Dreamsnaps, because they're much harder to pull off. If your goal is to get 4K this week, I think it's going to be a safer option for you to play with the new items and the new villagers, because there's a lot of great new stuff. Even if you haven't unlocked a lot of the Star Path stuff, you have Hercules' house, you have Phil, you have Hercules. But we have all these great new items in the Star Path, like the new gate, the new path, which you have unlocked. There's the new gold plants. And then there's a lot of good Scrooge Shop stuff that you can get very easily during this update. So, I don't know. I would encourage you to, if your goal is to get 4K, I would encourage you to do something you're a bit more familiar with. And then as you continue progressing in Dreamsnaps and you get things dialed in like foreground, midground, background, scene structure, then yeah, by all means, you can give it a try. But I think there are safer routes you could go this week. Again, you don't want the same elements on both sides. The fact that we have the same grass on both sides, and when we look here, we even see that grass like shooting out between these pieces. So you didn't connect these pieces all the way. If you click these pieces together, you won't get this grass shooting in between them like this. But you have a lot of good stuff to make a fun, Greek mythology-inspired scene. You have the Phil statues, which means you also have the gazebos. You have some of the new realm items. You have these archways, and I see you have Storybook Vale because you have the Fountain of Thebes back here, which means you also probably have Pegasus. So, another issue here is that the challenge specifically asked you to include mythological creatures. You don't have any. You have Hercules and you have Hades, but even though you have Storybook Vale, you didn't include Pegasus, which would be a great addition. You don't have to have Pegasus, but you do need to have some kind of mythological creature, considering it was stated in the challenge. And that's the big thing we focus on here is the theme, and then also photo composition. So, again, split scenes are very technical. And I know you've only been getting these reviews for a few weeks, and you're still figuring out a lot of the foundations of Dreamsnaps. You know, you're figuring out things like lighting, which you did do very well here. So this is a great improvement from last week. You know, you've got the sun positioned really well. You're getting better about featuring the avatar well. So there's, you know, you've been learning the foundations of Dreamsnaps. But jumping into a split scene is a bit risky when you're still learning the basics, if that makes sense. I'm not saying you can't do it, you know. If you want to give it a try, go for it. But my biggest recommendation would be to pave this entire right side with Forgotten Lands brick to make it black. You'll also want to, you know, we don't want to see off the floating island. And when you do build a Dreamsnap, there's no benefit to building close to the edge. You want to be really far away from this edge. That way you can use things like Hades' house in the background. You can actually make this feel like a completely different area than this. But when you're this close to the border of the island, you're not going to be able to fit a house in here. You're not going to be able to fit new buildings back here like Hercules' house. So if you really want to do a split scene, which again, I think you should stick with, you know, more standard snaps for now until you're really comfortable. But if you really want to do it, here's what I would recommend. Get away from the edge. Get far away from the edge. Use your avatar as the divider. And then on the right-hand side, if it's the underworld, let's pave it with black brick. And on the left-hand side, since it's the Hercules side, let's paint it with either gold brick or gold and opal road. And then we don't want the background to look the same. We don't want to see the same colored trees, right? Because it's a split scene. You have one environment and another environment completely separate. So where the trees are, put a big house there instead. So Hercules' house here, Hades' house here, and you'll have to get away from that edge. And then you decorate the Hercules side with all of this fun Greek, you know, or like Star Path stuff. And then you can decorate Hades' side with like the volcano stuff. The Well of Souls. You can put the Cerberus puppy in there. But, you know, make sure you include elements like that the theme mentioned. You know, mythological creatures. So, Pegasus would be great. The new Cerberus puppy, if you have him, could be great on this side. If you don't have him, don't worry. You know, Pegasus is a mythological creature. The challenge also mentioned Phil by name. So, on the Hercules side, including Phil would be great. So, there's definitely some things you can do to make this work. But again, split scenes are a lot more technical. And I would caution you here, and I would say it would be better for you to focus on the basics and really get your footing in Dreamsnaps before trying to build up to advanced concepts, if that makes sense. But if you do want to go for it and full send it, be my guest. I've given you some good advice, some good places to start. The main key to make this work is that both sides of the scene need to feel like completely different environments. So you don't want to show the same grass on both sides, you don't want to show the same trees on both sides, and you don't want to show the same background on both sides. That's why having different houses and different tall items is going to be useful here. That's why paving is going to be useful here. And that's why having very different decor on each side is going to be useful here. So all things you can consider. Just don't forget to include mythological creatures. And anytime you're going to build your snap, make sure you visit the theme, reread the theme so you know what everything that the theme is asking you to do. Sue Lee is next. I sent 3 pictures this week because I'm kind of stuck on which way to go. Any advice or what I need to improve on would be greatly appreciated. Okay. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Very fun. I'd have to say I definitely like your third option the most. Very cool. These are good too. You got some great action shots here with Phil talking to you. Great storytelling. You know, little green snake is also fun. You have Pegasus in the scene. I like the colors you have behind the bust here. But I do like this one the most. You know, we have Pegasus looking at Hercules here. Phil talking to you. Hades in the background just being himself. Though with this direction, there are some minor recommendations I have here. Now, I love the new Pride flowers. Like, these are really fun. But they don't really fit with the vibe of everything else going on here. You know, there's not really rainbows in the back. And we're playing up a lot of the Greek mythology stuff. And I see you have the cornucopia here. So what if instead of the flowers, we did the new golden fruit trees? They look really good in the foreground. They fit the vibe you're going for. And then we can do another small golden plant. Alice loves kimchi. Thank you for the resub, my friend. Welcome back. We can do some of the small gold plants here as well. So they're a very early game item. I've seen them in a lot of snaps. It would be these little gold plants here. So you can do the gold fruit trees and a couple of these. That's going to play up the gold you already have, like the gold on the door or the bronze, what have you. The gold we have here on the sides. The gold we have here on your outfit. The gold on the cornucopia. It's going to balance more with the scene you have. So I do think there's foreground. And keep in mind, you know, if you were here when I was doing the Forced Book Nook reviews, we had a really great submission come in from a first-time reviewer who said they were always getting either 4K or 2500. They were doing really good. But the advice they wanted was, how do I stay in 4K? Like, how do I get 4K very consistently? So I'm not 2500 this week, 4K, then 2500 again, then 4K, then 2500 again. How do I make it 4K most of the time? You know, everyone's going to have a chance to fall out of 4K every once in a while, but how do I get it very consistent? And one of the key talking points I brought up is making sure everything in your scene ties to the theme somehow. And that's why, you know, using things that tie into this Greek mythology-inspired build in your foreground would be a great play here. You'll play up the theme even more. And the foreground is crucial because it's right at the bottom of your photo, right at the base. These flowers are beautiful. And I have no doubt we will get a challenge where these are going to be fantastic to use. But I think there are some better options for you this week that can play really well with the scene you're building here. But yeah, out of your current scenes, I do like this one a lot. I think this one's really fun. These could do well. And I do think, you know, the foreground elements here can work. But with this one having Phil, Hercules, Hades, and Pegasus, and you with the Medusa set, very fun. And you've got the villagers featured really well here. We got Nicole Lane next. We got option number 1, option number 2, and then option number 3. So I like these last 2 angles a bit better than the first one. It's more of an upward angle. I think this one features the avatar a bit better. Saturation here is really fun. Good bold colors. We have Phil down here at the base kind of yelling at you, which is really fun. A little baby Pegasus here. The snake hair kind of covers Hercules a little bit. I would try to scoot him left just a hair. It's too bad we can't put him in the gazebo, you know. I mean, if you can, that would be awesome. Like, if you can get him right here in front of this pillar. And if you get Hades in front of this pillar, I think that would be great. But I would try to make sure he's a bit more visible. But you have great mythological creatures here. Like you're cosplaying as a mythological creature. Now, there is a really good dress in the Star Path to use for a Medusa setup. It's actually designed specifically for that. So there's this green dress with scales and gold. We just saw it on the previous snap as well. So if you are going to go in the Medusa direction, I do think using that dress that's made to match with this hair, that's made to match with this feel, is going to be a great direction. But also keep in mind, there's a face paint you can use. You can add scales with this face paint to your skin. And you can even use the vampire teeth if you have them. Like, this is probably the best designed Medusa I've seen today, and it was the first snap we reviewed. But the fact that they went out of their way to make such a convincing Medusa, they're using the Medusa dress, they added these vampire fangs, they added the snake eyes, they added the scales on the face. You know, there's so many good decisions here with the way they're presenting the avatar. And I really like the direction you're going here. I would just consider, you know, if you want to go in the Medusa direction, you can full send it, you know. You can really embrace that Medusa feel and that Medusa look. And I think voters will really appreciate that as well because, you know, the Medusa look is awesome. And again, voters love seeing new items. That includes wardrobe items. That new Medusa outfit is going to be great on a Medusa cosplay. And if you don't have it yet, you got plenty of time before Wednesday rolls around, before the deadline, to unlock the outfit and use that. But yeah, scene's looking good so far. I think making Hercules a little bit more visible would be a good call here. And I think, you know, considering an outfit change to the Medusa outfit would also be a very fun thing to consider. But you're definitely delivering on the theme. You got plenty of mythical companions. And since you have Hades, that well, actually, I don't know if you have Wish Blossom Ranch. I don't know if I see anything from Wish Blossom. But if you do have Wish Blossom Ranch, you know, you can even tuck Pegasus back here. Like, you know, just back here in this little space, maybe right in front of the house. We can just see his head popping up right here. But that would be another fun thing to include. But yeah, looking good so far. Bethany is next. Tell us if I have 2 ideas that I've come up with. I have more items for Hercules as it's the Star Path and very little for Mulan, but I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Any help would be greatly appreciated as I find what the Hercules is that is very, very bright, but with Mulan I'm finding that I don't have enough decorations for it. Well, the only reason you would want to do a Mulan build where you play up mythological dragons, because I covered this in my video, the only reason you would want to do this would be because you only have the base game and because you don't have the time to get the new Star Path stuff or complete the new realm. This option is an option for players that are not going to be able to do the Greek mythology-inspired builds. The reason you want to do the Greek mythology-inspired builds, if at all possible, is because voters love seeing new things. They love seeing new things. So, as stated in my video, this is a budget option. This is an option for people that don't have the Moonstones to buy this new bundle, which you did buy. This is an option for people that don't have DLCs, which you're in Mythopia, and you have Mythopia stuff, so you have DLCs. So, I wouldn't really be worried about doing a budget option if you're not on a budget, right? This is in all of my Dreamsnap videos, my tips guides, I'm always going to include options for players that are very limited on what they can do that week, because it's just the fair thing to do. So if somebody doesn't have the DLCs, and they don't have the time to do the Star Path right now, but they want to throw together a submission to get some Moonstones so they can hopefully get some of these things, then this can be an option for them. But I'm not sure why you would want to go in that direction when you bought, you bought a nearly 9,000 Moonstone bundle with stuff that's perfect for the theme. And you're pretty far along in the Star Path with, like, the gates and the gold cornucopias. So, there's not really any reason why you would want to do a Mulan build. You can see just how popular the Greek mythology-inspired builds are this week. Like, pretty much every single build is one. So, why depart from that if you don't have to, is my question. So, when you watch my tip guides, just make sure you're honing in on what I'm saying about these builds. So, if I say something's a budget option and you have all the good new stuff, then you don't have to do that. That's just an option for players that are not, as privileged and don't have as many options, right? So, yeah, let's stick with this. This is going to be a much better option for you. I mean, if you're going to spend nearly 9,000 Moonstones, you might as well use the stuff you bought, right? So we have the gazebo, we have the building back here. You have some good lighting coming into the scene, but I would try to get your characters much closer to the avatar. Now, the camera toggle for villagers is kind of bugged out in Mythopia, but here's the neat part. You don't have to use Mythopia, right? Actually, I don't even think you are. I think you're actually on the Glittering Dunes Island. You're just using a lot of Mythopia trees. So, since you're on a floating island, you could put your villagers a lot closer. You can use the toggle. You can just bring them right into your scene. They don't have to be right up here next to you. But let's give an example. Let's look at some other scenes. So, here in Left Shark's scene, we have the avatar featured right at the front. Hercules is a few feet behind her. Phil is a few feet behind her. Pegasus, a few feet behind her. They're all featured very well. Now, the reason this is important, a lot of people vote on a small screen. There's a lot of people voting on Nintendo Switch, or voting on a Steam Deck, or an ROG Ally, or even Apple Arcade. If I'm voting on a small screen, and your villagers are way back here, they're going to be really hard to see in your photo. They're not going to have much of a stage presence. But if you use your villager toggle wisely, you can feature them prominently in your photo. They don't have to be this close, but I would definitely recommend having them further up than this. You also have full control of where Hades goes. Or, I mean, not Hades, but Pegasus. You can ride him to any spot in the scene and leave him there, and he won't move. The other thing is, you're using this path here, but you just stop the path just short of the bottom of the photo. So I would just bring the path all the way down, and we can still see the sand from the Glittering Dunes on this side too, so I would cover that. But I would try to pave, evenly, just fill out the scene. My main recommendation for you here would be to definitely consider making your villagers a bit more prominent in the scene. And then in your foreground, Mythopia bushes are fun and all, but we have some great new items you could be using. Things we haven't seen before. Look at these golden fruit trees. You have them in your shot. They're very small, and you have them way in the back of your scene to where we can barely see them. If you put these at the front of your shot like this, you can have this golden fruit at the base of your scene. There's so many good items. And, here's another example. They got Phil right at the front. The challenge mentions him by name, so instead of burying him, way back in the back of the midground, you can have him right at the foreground. Pegasus as well, Hercules, lots of good options. Main advice here, focus on featuring your characters a bit better. Just like voters love seeing the avatar clearly represented, that applies to villagers as well. So you've already learned that, it's good to be close to the avatar with your shot. Now you need to start figuring out how to make your villagers and your characters more prominent as well. But you're off to a good start here. I think if you paved a bit more and you used some of the new items in the foreground and you featured your villagers a bit better. And also, I would highly advise sealing off your scene. You know, try to make it to where people can't see through it. If you have a little forest set here, put yellow lights behind it to make it glow. Now we can't see through it, you know. Same thing applies to openings like this. It's an opportunity for some cool silhouettes, for some beautiful lighting. Looking good so far. JMR. JMR said, so excited to be able to update some of my DLC with Hercules Decor. Thank you for your insights. All right, all right. Great shot of Phil here. Very good lighting. We got Mount Olympus in the back. Beautiful sunset time of day. Pegasus looks so fun here. The smile on his face is awesome. I would consider adding Hercules as well here. I think Hercules would be great to bring in. Not everyone in your photo needs to be a mythological creature or companion. You just want them included. You can even have Hades lurking in the background if you wanted. Now I know the issue with Mythopia is that the villager toggle is not working properly. So you could always trap Hercules with touch of magic items like, you know, somewhere in the photo. Even if he's back here, at least you have Phil featured very well and Pegasus featured very well. So you've got some great features happening here. Again, lighting is very nice. You got Mount Olympus in the background. You do have a lot of sky here, though. So maybe a little bit of Aurora action. Now, you don't want the Aurora to cover the house or the Mount Olympus in the back here, but what you could do is rotate it to where, you know, it's just covering a little bit on this side. Or if you have, you know, if there's any decorating space in that area up there, you could put another house up there. Or you could use some extra little fireworks or fireflies, you know, to give some detail to this portion of the snap. The other thing I would consider is, instead of the seaweed here, I would play up things that play up the, you know, the Greek mythology inspired build a bit more. There's those golden plants that we've had for ages that pair very nicely with the new golden plants we just got. So, of course, what I'm referring to would be let me see if I can find them again. These here. I think these were a level up reward. These little gold plants, got those ages ago. Now the challenge also mentions companions. So, again, if you take a companion house and put it slightly out of frame, you can put a little food bowl or a little pet ball behind you. You can get a little Pegasus or the little Cerberus walking into the scene and then walking back out. So that's another thing you can consider. The little gold plants here, the little fruit trees here lining your pond could be good. And then since gold is playing up so much with these new items, like we have the gold cornucopia, we have the gold bracelet, we have the gold lining on the outfit, we have the gold rope, we have the gold sections of the houses. You know, if you have the gold lily pads from the Dapper Delight Star Path, that would probably be even better to use than the glowing algae or the purple lily pads if you have them. But they could be very nice to feature here. Wings of a Daydream. Evil will always triumph because good is dumb. The legendary Lord Helmet Spaceballs. Oh my god, dude. Spaceballs is such a goated movie. I heard they're remaking it. I heard they're doing a new Spaceballs. I read an article about it a while ago, but I haven't heard anything since. Alright, Wings of a Daydream. We got first submission here. Oh, I love Hades here. Very cool. First submission, very minor difference between the two. I try to catch live, but usually can only watch the replay. Your tips are always thorough, and your advice is easy to follow. Thank you for all your hard work. You're welcome, Wings. You're welcome. I love your scene, by the way. So, very cool. So this one, you have a pose, kind of an offering here with the gold light. Almost like you're striking a deal with some poor, foolish mortal for immortality. And Hades is just watching it go down. I love the way you've set up the villagers, though. You know, Hades especially. Hercules just kind of looking baffled back here. Pegasus, Phil, the Cerberus puppy. Really good light coming in on the buildings up here. You know, this is what we've been talking about, getting this wonderful light casting with the sunset time of day. I love the cornucopia kind of floating here, too. That looks really fun. And then you have the gold plant. So, you know, this is what I was talking about before. For your foreground, playing up foreground items that link directly with the theme or directly with the challenge makes your snap more competitive. And, you know, as we can see here, Wings is doing a really good job of that. I like the mosaic tiles here. Again, great positioning for the villagers. Honestly, not much I would recommend changing here. Very solid build. I think it's very likely for 4K. I love the outfit. The red dagger dress is very cool. And I just love when Dreamsnaps kind of tell a story, it makes them so much more competitive. Sure, you know, if you have a really beautiful snap with a beautiful pose and a beautiful background, you can easily get 4K with something like that. But if you can make a beautiful snap that also tells a bit of a story where characters are interacting in unique ways and your pose is communicating some kind of deal or some kind of connection with a villager or with a companion, it is a wonderful way to make your snap even more competitive. And I think you've done a very good job with that here. So overall, very solid build. Really like where you're going with this. Very cool, very cool. I do wish we can get rid of this shadow here. You know, we have a little bit of a shadow in this corner, but it might just be tied to where you are. If there's something you can move, you know, maybe I see the sundial here. Oh, you know what? It might be your gazebo, which you could totally move because it's barely featured. We see the edge of the gazebo right here, but I don't think it's worth having there because this isn't really adding much to your scene, and it is creating this, you know, large shadow on the scene here. And maybe you're doing that just to balance with the fact that this side is darker. But I think getting that extra glow above Hercules, it'd be cool because now the left side of your scene is like very godly and very bright. There's no shadows. But the right side of the scene where we go into Hades, that gold starts to kind of fade away and then we get these darker shadowed notes. I don't know. I think it could play really cool with the concept you're going for here. But yeah, really fun submission. Love what you did. Very cool, very cool. Nelvaria. Oh, did we get through all the ones that were submitted already? I think we did. Let me reload. We might have got more today. Yeah, we got Crafty Joe, Dreamlight Baby Girl. There's a couple more. We got about 26 minutes left, so we'll try to knock out as many as we can. So, yeah, if anybody else wants to submit before we get to the end of the stream, feel free, feel free. And also, if you guys are enjoying the content, if you are enjoying the reviews, if you get good value out of these, whether you're somebody that submits or somebody that lurks, consider supporting the content. We are about 1,770 bits away from our goal. We're on goal number 184 today. So we've hit 183 consecutive goals. We got about 25 minutes left to hit today's. But again, you know, if we do miss the goal, it's not the end of the world. We've had a really good run. So the fact that we've hit 183 goals in a row is pretty wild. So, you know, if our streak stops here, definitely not the end of the world. Hey, thank you, Wishing, and thank you, Mama Flash. Hey, let's go. Mon-Fri with the big 1069. Wishing Stardust with the big 100. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you so much. Now we are a mere 601 biddies away. Crafty Joe, thank you for the big 300. Little hype train rolling in as well. Thank you, you guys. Thank you. Well, we did get to knock out a lot of snap reviews today, which is great. Should make Monday a bit easier. But yeah, if anybody else wants to submit, I got 2 more that submitted during the stream. And yeah, if we can knock out any more before Monday, that would be great because it'll make Monday a bit easier. All right, Crafty Joe. Thank you guys. Thank you. All right. Silver Tab with the hundo. Another day, no fence, but I got one of the stone vines today. Ooh, let's go. Nice. Kindle, thank you for the hundo. Jen, thank you for the 3 hundo. Mon-Fri with the 70. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, guys. All right. You can stop now. You hit the goal. Everybody calm down. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Goal number 184 on the books. The streak lives another day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Greatly appreciate it, you guys. Y'all are awesome. Yeah, like I said, you know, if we... eventually we'll miss a goal. Like, it's going to happen one of these days. The fact that we've hit 184 is pretty crazy. I think you guys are just, like... I think you guys have your mindset on getting us to 200. I don't know. Skylar, thank you for the hundo as well. Very kind of you, my friend. Very kind. All right. Thank you, thank you. Now we're over. Now we overshot on the goal. Much appreciated. And again, Mama Flash, thank you for the very legendary dono there. Thank you for the big 1069. Very kind of you. Very kind. Big shout out to Skylar. Mama Flash, Jingle Bells, Kindle, Silver Tab, Powerpuff, Crafty Joe, Wishing Stardust. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Ronald says, if we get to 200, I really want to see another banana stream. I mean, I kind of already owe you guys one after 150, I think. If we did a banana stream, I wonder if it will be a Twitch special or YouTube and Twitch. Because the thing is, YouTube's never seen the banana. I don't know how they would respond to it because the banana is just blatantly mean to everybody. And if they're not familiar with a banana stream, they might be like, why is Senpai being so mean? Makes me curious. But yeah, we got to do another banana stream at some point. I haven't even seen one, and I've been here for 6 months. Well, yeah, they are pretty rare. They are pretty rare. All right, let's see. Crafty Joe here. You also owe us for being... Yo, Amanda! You did not have to do that, my friend. That is...
I need to know what a banana stream is.
You want to know? I guess I can show you real quick. All right, let me update the goal. 6469. The thing is, I don't have my voice mod set up right now, but I can open it and set it up real quick. So the banana stream is, you know, basically I take the day off and we have a banana that'll take over. There's a banana that'll take over. Let me show you. Let me show you how that works, just so you know. So you know what that is. Give me 1 second here. We need this. Now, once I open voice mod, I'm gonna have to turn down. My main mic because it's gonna be 2 mics at once. Yeah, there it is. It's 2 mics at once. We're gonna turn this one down. There we go. Okay. And then the other thing is, I can't use the green screen for banana. So we would use this one, which would be about here. And then how it works is, give me 1 second here. I'll introduce you guys.
So essentially it's this. It's just this for a whole day, for a whole stream. And I have to come here, and I don't want to be here. And I have to deal with sitting here for 3 hours and having a bunch of people talk to me, and I don't even like people. And to make matters worse, usually when I'm here, the chat just makes a whole bunch of monkey noises, and it's not fun. And everybody just says mean things, so I say mean things back, and I play stupid games that I don't like, and then I leave, and that's all it is. So, oh, thank you so much for asking. What a great question. What's a banana stream? Well, what do you think it is? It's a stream with a banana. Like, what are you, stupid? Is that it? It's like asking, you know, what's a banana smoothie? Well, it's a smoothie with bananas. So, a banana stream would be a stream with a banana. Do you understand? Or is that too complicated? Is that too complicated for you? Probably is. Banana stream is a stream with a banana instead of a person. That's how it works. So, yeah, sometimes I have to be here because you guys hit a bunch of Senpai's stupid goals, and then he gets to take a day off because you guys support him, which doesn't make any sense, and then I have to be here, even though I don't want to be, and it's basically just 3 hours of me sitting here having to deal with a bunch of children, or whatever you guys are. I don't know how old you are. I don't really care. I don't really want to get to know of any of you, so anyway, I'm leaving. I'm never coming back either, so I know a lot of you guys are like, ooh, I want another banana stream. That would be so fun. Let's do another one of those streams. No, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't like you. I don't like any of you, and I'm never coming back. Probably. All right, bye.
All right, so yeah. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. It's just, you know, it's just a little different. It's a little different. So, you know, just one of those things. One of those things. Yeah, it's just something we've done for a little while. Occasionally, you know. It's an occasional little thing. I don't know why everybody likes it. I guess people just like, you know, people just like the mean banana, I guess. I don't know. You would think nobody would like it because the banana is kind of a jerk. But yeah, people really like the banana stream for some reason. Even though he's just mean. Bell with 100 bits says goodbye. All right. The guy says I love the banana. Amanda says no, I love being roasted. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You know, it's a good time. Not for me though, because I'm not here. So I don't know. I'm never here when the banana's here. We're completely different individuals. So sometimes people are like, "Oh, you should be the banana." I'm like, guys, I can't just be the banana. The banana is his own thing. Like I have no input in what he says or in what he does. There's no correlation between me and him. You know, I'm probably the only human he kind of likes, but overall, you know, he doesn't really like anybody, even me. Especially when I eat bananas, he gets like really mad about that. Span said, yeah, bro, he hates you. Probably. Have the banana tell the Eric story. I don't know if he knows it. I think only I can. I think only I can do that. All right. Let's dive back into this one. Crafty Joe. Crafty Joe's who we had next. One is midday, other is sunset. Okay. So this would be midday, this would be sunset. Okay. So sunset is really nice when you get these like gold reflections off of some of the new items, but it's trickier to do that when you have a lot of shade. So some of these large items, and we also have something is blocking your light right here. So we have light on this tree on the left, but you have no light on the tree on the right. So one thing I would do if you want to go with the sunset option, Crafty Joe, is I would find out what's creating that shadow, and I would remove it. So it looks like the sun is behind the camera, kind of pointed into the scene. But the trick to making a sunset time of day scene really work is you want a lot of that light to come into the scene. You want light hitting your foreground items, like those trees you had. You know how we have the light hitting the bottom left and bottom right of this? And we have light hitting the characters. So when it comes to using that sunset time of day to its full effect, you see how with Belle's snap, she has a lot of very short things here in the foreground. Nothing that goes too high up. And then because of that, there's nothing really obstructing the light's path to the backdrop. So we get these really nice light reflections on some of the items in the back. We get very good lighting on the characters. So just be very mindful of that. The other thing here would be balance. So it looks like you've created a very balanced scene, but you've turned your camera a bit more to the left. So this tree on the right-hand side takes up way more space than this tree on the left-hand side. If you adjust your angle a little bit, you can have these trees take up the exact same amount of space, and you can line this up to where, you know, this rooftop sits flush across the back of your scene. Now, this is lined up a lot better. This tree over here still comes in a little bit more. But yeah, I think the sunset lighting looks better, but if you want to use it, you're going to have to find out what's causing, especially this shadow right here. And it might be the pillars of this building itself if it keeps coming out. You can always cut the building short, though. Overall, solid scene, though. Just also be mindful of clipping. So Pegasus' wing is kind of going through this pillar. Small deal, but if you readjust him a little bit, you can get it to where he's either behind the pillar or to the side of it where we don't have clipping issues. You know, good shot of Phil here, good shot of Herc. But yeah, the main things I would work on for this one, Crafty Joe, is I would focus on balance. So try to get everything, you know, that's if you make a balanced scene. Not every scene has to be balanced, but I can tell when you made this, you made it to be balanced. Because you have the same planter here, same planter here. You have the fountain in the middle. You have this stand on the left, stand on the right. You have this tree on the left, tree on the right. We have the same walls on each side, and then we have the stadium in the back. So you built a very balanced scene, but then you turn your camera angle a bit. So, you know, just try to get the positioning and the framing just right. That way you can make the most of that balance. Voters do tend to love balanced snaps. You know, Belle knows that. We got really good balance here. You know, we see it here with Drees. You know, the building is right in the middle. Gazebos are on both sides. And look at how there's about the same amount of space from the gazebos in the edge of the frame and how she's right in the middle. So snaps like this tend to perform very well just because for any photo, even outside of Dreamsnaps, a balanced photo is typically something very appealing to people. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. It could be asymmetrical, but just balanced, you know, having the same weight on each side. Now, this is more of a symmetrical build, but it does have asymmetrical properties, like, you know, different villagers, different creatures on each side. But the gate is in the middle, gazebo on the left, gazebo on the right, path coming around here at the base, gold tree on the left, gold tree on the right, fountain on the left, fountain on the right, and it's very balanced. You know, they got everything framed evenly on both sides. So I would say that would be the main focus I would have for this one. This one is a bit more balanced, but if you can hit that balance with the sunset lighting and find out what's causing this shadow. Actually, it looks like you might not be able to do much about that shadow because the sun might be off and to the right. If you had the sun right behind the camera, we would get about the same lighting on both of these. Keep in mind, if you're not set up right behind the sun, you could always save your whole build as a preset and then rotate it or move it, you know. So it is facing the sun more directly. Keep that in mind. Very nice new feature. Dreamlight, baby girl. I think you change your name to Reptile Mom. This is my scene for this week. a little risky. So a few things here, Reptile Mom. First off, voters don't really like zoomed out snaps. They never have. Snaps like this tend to really struggle. And this has been a thing since the beginning of Dreamsnaps. Now, the important thing with Dreamsnaps that you have to keep in mind is that if you want to perform well, it's not just about doing what you think looks really good, it's about doing what the voters think looks really good. I want you to look at a lot of the snaps we've seen today. Look at how well the avatar is featured here, how close they are. Same here, right? Same here, same here. And not just the villager, not just the player, but the characters are also very well featured. And you'll see this is a common trend throughout almost all of these submissions. And a lot of these submissions are from very talented players who regularly manage to get 4K. 4K is not uncommon for these players. Some of them are still learning, but many of them have grown quite a lot in the realm of snaps and can manage to pull in 4K rewards pretty frequently. Notice how we just looked at all of today's reviews and not a single one was zoomed out like this. That's not a coincidence. It's because they know that snaps like this are not popular with voters. Yes, zooming out can show more of your environment. But what allows a Dreamsnap to do well is the beauty factor and how it ties into the theme. The thing about getting close to the avatar is that they are beautiful, and you can customize them with eyeshadow, different hairstyles, different outfit options. So here you are with this beautiful new dress, this beautiful clarion dress, these beautiful clarion wings, and you're so far away we can't even appreciate the beauty of it. So the first thing I want to touch on here is if you want to start performing better in Dreamsnaps, I highly advise you break away from zoomed out shots entirely. Now, every once in a while, there will be a theme where it may be a good idea, like architectural statement, for example. In the architectural statement challenge, it was all about the buildings. So even if a player zoomed out, if they showcased buildings really well, it could work out. But 9 times, actually I'd say 99 times out of 100, this is going to be the better option. And look at how much beauty you get off of this. Now I'm going to show you another thing. If you want to get close to the avatar, you know, with like these other people are doing, there's actually a certain way they're pulling this off. So you can place items that actually push your camera. One of my favorite would be the Vizier's alchemy table, but there is an item everybody has that does this as well, even if you're a brand new player. If you go into the landscaping menu, you're going to find these large rocks, like the large mossy rock, you know, these large rocks. They also push the camera. So if I open portrait mode in my camera, this is how I usually look. Even this is a little bit small. Like even this I wouldn't recommend. You can get 4K with it, but this tends to perform much better. So this item here, the Vizier's alchemy table, is pushing my camera towards my player. And when we adjust focus and we strike a pose, you know, now we get all that beauty in the avatar. We can see the eyeshadow. We can see the sparkling on the headwear here. We can see the curls in the hair. And again, you have that beautiful gold clarion dress and those beautiful wings. But you've made them like really tiny in your photo. Again, this rock will do the same thing. So we're going to get a little further away here. Come up a tiny bit. And everybody has this rock. So you can use this to get a bit closer to your avatar as well. But I would highly encourage you to break away from doing scenes like this. Now, the other thing is, aside from voters not really going for zoomed out shots. The other issue would be the theme. Let's read, and this is the most important thing about any Dreamsnap challenge, the theme. Executing the theme well and making sure everything in your photo ties into the theme is one of the biggest keys to performing well on average. So the challenge is called Legendary Moments. It says create a world of wonder with fantastical characters. So not just a world of wonder, but a world of wonder with fantastical characters. It mentions Phil and Tinkerbell, satyr, fairy, or even alien. Dress up and play with mythical companions and creatures. There's no fantastical characters here. There's actually no characters here. It's just you and the bee. There's no... You have no mythological or mythical companions and creatures. You could say the bee is a mythological creature because he's like bigger, but I think that kind of misses the mark of what the challenge is asking. A mythological creature would be a creature of myth. So, dragons, Pegasus, unicorns. You have Wish Blossom Ranch because you have this bee, which means you have things like Pegasus. You know, if you want to do a fairy build, you could grab a horse and put the fairy wings on him that you get when you unlock Tinkerbell. The challenge mentioned Tinkerbell by name, and you're dressing up as a fairy. The challenge said use fantastical characters like Tinkerbell. And then you made a fairy scene and just ignored that part of the challenge. You're like, no, I don't need to add Tinkerbell. I don't need to add mythological creatures. If you want to do well, you need to show voters that you cared about what the theme said. It's very important. So, key takeaways for your snap here. It's disregarding a lot of what the theme said, which is a big problem when it comes to getting 4K. And the other major issue you're facing here is that voters just don't like zoomed out snaps. To really drive this home, we're not just going to focus on the snaps we've reviewed today. I am also going to open my Facebook here, and I'm going to show you the results from Beachy Bliss. We're going to talk about the results from Beachy Bliss. And you're going to see that even though there's like hundreds of snaps shared on this post, there won't be a single 4K submission that's zoomed out. So here's the post. If we go into the comments, here's a 4K. Features the avatar very well. Features villagers very well. Not zoomed out. Another 4K. See how well the avatar's featured? Another 4K. So, one thing you always have to keep in mind when you're building a Dreamsnap scene, if you're building it just for fun, then you can do whatever you want. You can ignore as much of the theme as you want. You can zoom out as much as you want. You can literally do it however you would like. But if you're submitting a Dreamsnap for me to review, these reviews are for people that want to get 4K. You can have fun while doing it, of course. But if your goal is to get 4K or to improve how you're performing with snaps, it's not just about doing what you want to do. It's about winning votes. That's ultimately what determines performance. Winning votes. So, when it comes to any Dreamsnap challenge, you have to build scenes that the voters like. Otherwise, getting 4K is an impossibility. So the biggest thing I would focus on for you would be learning what the player base and the voters like to see in Dreamsnaps. That's gonna create. That's gonna give you the knowledge regarding how you should be approaching these challenges, these photo challenges, and what you can do to improve. So the best way to do that is to look at submissions, look at results. You know, you can follow us on Facebook every week after a challenge ends. I always share my results, and then I ask everybody to share theirs, and we get a ton of replies on these. You can check people's submissions in Discord. You don't have to copy these submissions or do exactly what they're doing, but you can you can be mindful of the key concepts of how they're approaching their snaps. Look at the beauty factor here, look at the smile on the avatar, look at the eyeshadow, the color of the lip, the silhouette around her. Look at how well Stitch is featured. Look at the bold, vibrant colors. So when it comes to Dreamsnaps, you got to look at it kind of like you look at anything where your goal is to get votes. You got to know your voters. You got to know what these voters like to see. If you don't know that, then you will have a very uphill battle when it comes to getting 4K. Most of the advice I give for Dreamsnaps has nothing to do with my personal preferences. I might like photos a certain way, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what the voters like, what we see performing well week after week after week. And once you figure that out and you start learning how to build these kinds of scenes, you'll be able to get a lot more cool stuff in this game, because you're not going to have to open your wallet as much to buy moonstones. You can rack in 2,500 to 4,000 moonstones a week nearly every week. So we've looked at a lot of submissions, and like I said, we haven't found a single zoomed out photo. If people liked those types of photos, they would be doing those types of photos. But they're not. Because not only do most of the people not really like them because they don't have the same level of beauty, they also know that a majority of voters are not too fond of them. So these are all very important things to consider when it comes to Dreamsnap challenges. So my advice for you here would be to pivot away, rebuild your scene, because you're not going to be able to use this same scene if you don't zoom out. The way you've built this was for a zoomed out shot, and zoomed out shots just aren't popular. And before you build a new scene, I would encourage you to revisit the challenge description and read it very thoroughly, and make sure your Dreamsnap embodies everything that this says. That'll be very, very important as well. Alrighty, you guys. With that, I think we are at the end of today's review stream. We got through everybody that submitted early, so that's great. Should be a bit easier to knock things out going into Monday now. I'm gonna hop off of here because I'm gonna get ready to go to the movies. I'm actually going to see the finale for The Amazing Digital Circus. By the way, if you've never seen The Amazing Digital Circus, it's a YouTube series, and the finale actually is coming to theaters, which is kind of cool. But it is a really interesting little series. When you watch the first episode, you're like, is this some kind of kids show? Like, what am I looking at? And then once you start figuring out like what's happening, you're like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty deep. But I saw like some YouTube shorts and TikToks about it, and then I watched it on YouTube, and I was like, dang, this is actually really crazy, and I really want to know how it ends. So I'm going to find out today. We're going to go see the movie at 6:45. So I'm going to have a quick little dinner. Then I'm going to go check it out. They have Digital Circus on Netflix? Really? I didn't know that. That's cool. I had no idea. Dang, look at them. Look at them moving up in the world from YouTube to Netflix. Wow. But yeah, check it out if you haven't seen it before. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I want to see Backrooms as well. I might go see that before it leaves theaters. I've always liked the Backrooms lore. It's super interesting to me. I've watched so many YouTube videos on the Backrooms, and I've played like Backrooms games. So I would love to see the movie. I also think it's really cool that both Backrooms and Obsession were directed and produced by YouTubers, and they outperformed the new Star Wars movie. How cool is it that YouTubers are beating Hollywood in terms of making movies right now? That's pretty wild, in my opinion. But the fact that both Backrooms and Obsession have brought in, that have had better ticket sales than the Mandalorian movie is really surprising, but pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, I know. Actually, I don't know why, but I think it was the New York Times, but they published a pretty nasty article about the director, and they were like, he still lives with his parents. And the article, like, all but doxed his parents' house. And I'm like, why would they do that unless Hollywood's just pissed that this kid is making good movies? They mentioned, like, they mentioned, like, what area the house was in. Like, they didn't list the address, but they might as well have. Like, I saw a whole video about this article, and the person that wrote the article was like a real estate reporter. But honestly, it almost felt like they were attacking this kid because he did so well. I don't know. I feel like Hollywood's kind of pissed off. I feel like they're kind of mad because Iron Lung from Markiplier also did really well. So, like, a lot of the big hit movies right now. So you have Iron Lung that did really well in the theaters. You have Obsession that has done really well. You have the Backrooms that's done really well. And all three of those were made by YouTubers, and they're outperforming what Hollywood is doing. And honestly, I think they're kind of mad about it. He is 20 years old. Of course, he still lives with his parent. What's wrong with that? In this economy, there's 100% nothing wrong with living with a family. Dude, I agree. It was just crazy. Like, why even make an article about that? That's what I don't understand. Like, why is that newsworthy? Like, just leave the kid alone. He made a good movie. We don't need to dox his parents' house. Like, what are we doing? And it's also not healthy for the public to know where this dude lives. Like, there's crazy people out there. Like, that shouldn't be public information. You shouldn't make an article about that. I mean, sure, free speech, whatever. You can post whatever kind of articles you want. I just don't see the point of making an article about this 20-year-old that might still live with his parents, you know? Why? Like, maybe make an article saying this 20-year-old's movie did so good, it beat major Hollywood productions. That's an article. That's an interesting news story. I would like that story. I'd be like, wow. But instead they're like, he lives with his parents. Like, get out of here, bro. What are you doing? Lady said, what's going on here? Nothing. Don't tell her, guys. Don't tell her what we're doing. She can't know. She can't know what we're up to. Nothing at all, lady. Nothing at all. I was actually just leaving. I'm about to go see the season finale of The Amazing Digital Circus. Sunshine, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. We'll be catching up with the update. Yeah, I gotta make my Dreamsnap over the weekend, and I also want to finish Hercules and Phil's quest lines this weekend, just so I can have all the new stuff, consider using it for my snap. But yeah, thank you for all the submissions, you guys. I'm glad we were able to make so much progress today. That's awesome. It should make getting through Monday a lot easier. And also, look at this sweet little fella. Look at this sweet little boy. He was so good. The whole time I was streaming, he was just napping. He just napping over there. He just a good little fella. Are you in here, Jordan? I think you are. Maybe not. Maybe that's my chair moving that. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. He just woke up when I took the camera away. Yeah, look at him. Mr. Sleepy, what you doing? Are you eating? Are you eating? Yeah. Yeah, he's a good boy. Okay. All right. I'm going to skedaddle. I'm going to get ready for the movies. Thank you for an amazing day, and thank you for 184 consecutive goals. Let's go. Great work on your snaps this week, you guys. I think you guys will do quite well. Like I said, best week for snaps, like one of the easier weeks for snaps is when we get a new update. There's going to be a lot more throwaway submissions. There's going to be a lot more submissions than normal. So with so many of your submissions looking so good, I think we'll see some great performance here in the community. Bro looks tired from paying all the bills. Yeah, he pays the bills by being a cutie. All right. Well, stay safe, stay awesome, stay healthy. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will catch you guys on Monday as we work to wrap up the remainder of the reviews. Thanks for being here. Thank you again for 184. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Ta-da for now. Bye-bye.